Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Reincarnated Dragon. Obtain 12 talismans at the beginning. Chapter 41. Nishizawa led the clan forward slowly. All the monsters that participated in the battle with the human soldiers were healed by him with the horse charm. No hidden illnesses or wounds were left. Even Ubina's arm, which originally took more than half a month to grow, is now back to its original state, as if it were brand new. At the same time, Nishizawa's recovery ability once again won the admiration of the monsters. This terrible master, in addition to possessing powerful destructive power, also has magical creativity. Destruction and creation. Such a master is worthy of their following. Although Nishizawa is not as big as an adult dragon and has not yet reached the size of a super large creature, he is still a giant dragon. If you don't remain invisible and wander outside, you will easily be noticed by nearby creatures. Although Nishizawa is not afraid of his current strength, the situation is worse for these monsters following him. Using the height of his flight, Caesar had a clear view of the scene ahead. He noticed that there was a huge and vast plain ahead of him. There is a plain ahead. Let's set up camp here temporarily, Caesar said. It's getting late. With the power of horses and dogs, one does not need to sleep. But this group of monsters want it. Yes, great master. Cled and Obi looked at each other and breathed a sigh of relief. After a long journey, they were really exhausted. Even his strengthened body couldn't withstand such exertion. On these days, they take no more than 5 hours of rest. On weekdays, I just drink some river water when I'm thirsty, and eat whatever I see when I'm hungry. No matter how uncomfortable they felt, they did not dare to make any comments or requests to Caesar. Afraid of making the owner angry. The vast plain does not look like a lush forest. Everything around it is empty. At a glance, you can see the horizon. For monsters who have lived in the forest for a long time, there is no sense of security. Usually they would hide in the forest and use the woods to hide their bodies. Stop it, Caesar said. Cled's eyes lit up. He turned around and shouted, "Stop. Rest here." Great, I can finally rest. I'm so exhausted. Before you die from the enemy's weapons, you will die from exhaustion yourself first. So hungry, so thirsty. The lizard people suddenly collapsed to the ground. I haven't eaten anything today. All of them fell to the ground hungrily, with no strength in their limbs. The last bit of physical strength that supported their running disappeared under Caesar's command. Cled knew that this was not the answer. He had more physical strength than the average lizard man and still had some strength. As the leader, he took the initiative to find Caesar. Request to search for food in the surrounding area. As long as he doesn't encounter any monsters that are too powerful, Cled can deal with them with his own strength. Even if he encounters danger, Cled can immediately use his wings to fly away. Faced with Cled's request, Caesar said nothing and acquiesced to his actions. Seeing that Cled was going to look for food, Obi took the initiative to lead the hungry and powerless goblins and began his familiar work of digging holes in the ground. The plain is too empty. Lying on this plain, it is easy to be attacked by other creatures when resting at night. It's safer to stay in the hole. The first hole dug was of course prepared for the owner, Nishizawa. Obi was basically digging the huge underground lair alone, and the other goblins had little strength. Even the hands holding the tool started to tremble, and they might become weak. Some goblins who dug up bugs picked them up without hesitation and threw them into their mouths to replenish their physical strength. The monsters won't mind this. Some are good to eat. Like some giant dragons who have no food, when they are desperate, they will eat dirt to fill their stomachs and make themselves feel full. Master, I have dug your dragon's nest for you. Please don't dislike it. This is only temporary. Obi bowed respectfully. He really didn't have any strength. You must be starving, Caesar asked. Yes. Yes, master. Obi was a little overwhelmed. The owner suddenly asked what he was doing. Wait a moment. Suddenly I remembered that the master was a giant dragon. If the master felt hungry, would he eat them as food? In an instant, Obi was terrified and shrank his head in fear. Caesar was a little confused when he saw this. Is this goblin afraid? What is he afraid of? Baffling. With a puzzled look on his face, Caesar took out a piece of meat from the system space and said, "Take it and eat it." Food. The aroma of raw meat was quickly picked up by the monster with a sensitive nose. Each one of them drooled greedily and looked at the piece of raw meat that the owner handed Obi. The size of the raw meat is as big as Caesar's paw. This was the prey that the monsters killed for Caesar when he stayed in the Casa forest. Not every food Nishizawa eats. Sometimes if you don't want to eat it, just put it in the system space. Time in system space is prohibited. The food put inside will remain in the time state before entering it for the first time. It will not be affected by the passage of time again until it is taken out. Thank you, Master. Obi was ecstatic. He immediately ate this piece of raw meat with all his teeth and claws. The sound of chewing raw meat made other people's monsters swallow their saliva. My stomach growled. Seeing that so many monsters were still hungry, Caesar threw out all the raw meat left in the system space. Go and eat, little cubs. Bang! The raw meat smashed onto the plain, staining the dirty sand. But how could the monsters care about this? They almost starved to death, just like the starving ghosts in hell, holding on to the raw meat and starting to chew it. There is not much food, so many monsters are fighting for the right to eat food. Looking at this group of monsters, Caesar had no way to stop them. The monster is, if you are strong, you are the boss. If you are not strong, you are nothing. The weak are not qualified to eat this piece of meat. Obi, who had gained some strength after eating the food, even licked all the food residue from the corner of his mouth, still feeling unsatisfied. After filling your stomach, you naturally have to work. Obi snatched some pieces of meat from the lizardmen and threw them to his goblins. Let the goblin also replenish a wave of physical strength. Then we started digging and transforming the crypt. Soon, holes were dug for everyone in the clan. Although it looks very crude now, in time it can become similar to the cave in Casa Forest. Just spend tonight making do. Isn't Clad back yet? Obi raised his head and shook off the dirt on his head. Only then did he remember that Clad was out looking for food. It's late at night. Bang! A fat sheep fell from the sky and fell to the ground, turning into a pile of meat residue. In an instant, attracting countless monsters to come forward to share their food. Clad wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and came to Caesar. Master, I'm back. Not long ago, Clad found a place with many fat sheep. All the fat sheep were surrounded by a fence and couldn't get out. Clad was very happy. He immediately told Caesar the news. Caesar asked him to bring back a few more fat sheep from the fence. As a result, Clad brought back more than 10 fat sheep one after another while coming and going. Caesar didn't eat a bite and gave everything to these monsters. He doesn't need to eat. Let these monsters eat first, so as not to starve to death. Any more? Caesar asked. There are many more, Master. I really don't know why these fat sheep are surrounded. It just gives us an advantage. Clad grinned. My luck is really good. I found such food in no time. You idiot, these sheep are obviously kept in captivity. Caesar said angrily. Otherwise, how could these sheep have fenced themselves in? Clad has a stupid head. In captivity, Clad was stunned. It seems that what the master said does make sense. As for why these fat sheep were surrounded, it turned out that they were kept in captivity by other creatures. Not all monsters make a living by hunting. Some monsters are born with the innate ability to be raised in captivity and farmed. They will use their ability to raise food and cultivate land to provide food for their own tribe. Ha ha ha, Clad, you didn't even think of this. You must have been starved to death. Obi couldn't help but joked. How long have you been without food? Before a person can starve to death, his brain is starved to death. Obi, I just didn't react. Master, please believe me. Clad hurriedly explained. He was really starved. Seeing so many fat sheep, I didn't think much about it. He started to kill the fat sheep without stopping, and then transported the fat sheep back to his owner without stopping. I don't care about this, Clad, let your Bladafang tribe rest well, and you, Obi, take me to see the place where you found the fat sheep tomorrow. Caesar wanted to know what the creature was that kept these fat sheep in captivity. According to the records of the dragon inheritance, races that raise livestock are generally not particularly powerful races. Just like a giant dragon would never do such a thing. No problem, Master. Clad nodded. He was indeed going to have a good rest tonight. The second day. The rising sun in the morning shines through the entrance of the cave into the cave. The monsters that were more sensitive to light woke up one by one and crawled out of their holes. Lizardmen can't adapt to this environment. They are more suitable for living in humid environments, contrary to Zeiss, the red dragon. Unless Caesar puts all the lizardmen through dragon transformation rituals. Looking at this group of listless lizardmen, Caesar had an idea. Yes, I almost forgot, since he can create lizardmen, why not just create dragon-shaped lizardmen? This will save you some trouble. According to your current growth, the monsters that follow you in the future must not be very weak. Otherwise, from now on, all created creatures will be changed into dragon creatures. I just don't know how much mana it takes to create a dragon creature. Just do it. Caesar began to try, and using his uncanny craftsmanship skills, he quickly carved a statue of a dragon-turned-lizard man. Using the rat charm, he was given life force. The dragon-turned-lizard men transformed from the original stone statues into real creatures. Before the dragon-turned-lizard man could figure out his situation, he saw a terrifying giant dragon staring at him. Having the blood of a giant dragon, he was immediately frightened by the aura of Caesar and fell to his knees on the ground. Most of the creatures created by the rat charm are unaware of their creation. They all just mistakenly thought that they suddenly appeared in front of Caesar. Caesar glanced at his own panel and lost 300 of his magic points. It's still a bit unaffordable at the moment, so forget it, let's start with ordinary monsters. It's not realistic to reach the sky in one step. Unless the 10th company can produce something good for itself. Shaking his head and throwing away this temporarily unrealistic thought, Caesar said, Cled. I'm here, master, I'm here. Cled ran forward without stopping and said, bring your saber-tooth tribe and follow me. Yes. Boom. Nishizawa soared into the sky. Cled quickly ordered his Blatafang tribesmen to follow closely behind their master. Then Cled hurriedly flew to Zeisa's side. Master, will you follow me next? Well, you lead the way. With permission from Nishizawa. Only then did Cled have the courage to fly in front of Caesar. Otherwise, without Caesar's words, if he rashly flew in front of a giant dragon, it would be considered a provocation by the dragon. Under the leadership of Cled, soon we came to the other side of the plain. There are indeed the fat sheep that Cled mentioned. Even though so many fat sheep were caught yesterday, there were still too many fat sheep in the sheepfold this morning. He seemed to recognize the murderer in front of him who had captured his companion last night. I was still frightened by the giant dragon's eyes. Mie, mie mie. The sheep bleated continuously and ran in panic in the sheepfold. It's a pity that they are blocked by wooden fences, where else can they go? What Nishizawa noticed was that there was an entrance to a cave not far from the sheepfold. Next to the entrance to the cave was a shrine carved from a huge stone. Shizawa, who had the dragon heritage, could recognize at a glance which god the shrine was enshrined in. Single quote. That is the demon known as the King of the Horned Demons, Demon Lord Baphomet. This is a demonized minotaur. He is a demon lord in the endless abyss. Most of his followers are tauren and giant bull demons. The giant bull demon is a demonized tauren who exchanged wisdom for strength. With the giant bull demon's IQ, it is most likely impossible to raise livestock. Well, the answer is already obvious. It seemed to be to verify Caesar's conjecture. A group of strong and burly monsters with a bull's head came out of the underground maze. Each of them held a giant axe in their menacing hands and looked at the lizard man on the ground. The leader of this group of tauren, the tauren chief, raised his head, squinted his eyes, and noticed the red dragon hovering in the sky. The group of lizardmen in front of him did not cause any panic to the tauren chief. Only the giant dragon hovering above his head doubled his pressure, like a sharp blade hanging above his head that would fall at any time. The crimson dragon scales reflected the morning light, and the figure hovering in the sky looked like a rising sun. Cled landed on the ground first and stood in front of his people. He looked at the tauren chief with evil eyes. This guy is very powerful. Minotaurs are large humanoid monsters. Their height is far higher than that of the lizardmen, exceeding an astonishing 4 meters. Even Cled, who has undergone the dragon transformation ceremony, is far inferior to them. Not to mention the larger tauren chief. Roar. The dragon's roar was like a substantial sound wave spreading, shocking the hearts of the monsters present. The mighty dragon descended from the sky, putting considerable pressure on the tauren. This noble dragon slowly landed on the shrine that the tauren regarded as their faith. Caesar calmly used the Baphomet shrine as a foothold and stepped on it with his own limbs. The 10-meter-long body was perched on the huge shrine, looking down at the group of Tauren. The Tauren clenched his axe tightly, the bull's eyes filled with anger. This is undoubtedly a violation of their beliefs. But they are not stupid. What they see in front of them is a giant dragon. Even though this giant dragon was not yet an adult, the aura emanating from him was enough to make them tremble. Caesar's sharp eyes swept over the group of Tauren one by one, and finally stopped on the Tauren chief. Name: Alistar. Race: Tauren. Faction: Chaotic Evil. Life: 1500. Strength: 350. Defense: 160. Equipment: Giant Axe, Leather Armor. Magic value: 0. Ability: Charge, Bloody Battle. Magic: None. The panel data of this Tauren is very luxurious. It is much stronger than the human officer Bushido who almost killed Kled and Obi before. Said without politeness. If Kled had been replaced by Alistar, Alistar would definitely be able to cut Bushido in half easily. This is the gap in strength. Even when he was a young dragon, Alistar had the ability to hunt him down. This is not Alistar's peak yet. If he is allowed to undergo demonization again, even an ordinary young white dragon will have the ability to compete with him. This is the power of the Tauren. But this is the limit of the Tauren creature. If you encounter an adult dragon, you will only be killed instantly. Don't even think about struggling. Say your name, Minotaur. The terrifying dragon eyes stared at the Tauren. Alista, this is my last name. I don't have a name. Dear Lord Red Dragon. Alistar said neither humble nor arrogantly. He believed in his own strength. Although the red dragon in front of him put a lot of pressure on him, judging from the size, he was not even a giant dragon in his youth. Maybe he has the ability to compete. This is Alistar's confidence in himself. No name. Yes, Alistar is the surname that our Alistar tribe leader can inherit. Alistar answered Caesar's doubts. Alista, I do know a Tauren named Alistar. I hope you won't insult this name. The big purple bull appeared in Caesar's mind. Although I don't know what you mean, I will never insult this family name. I wonder what your purpose is, Lord Honglong. Alistar's eyes flashed fiercely. The Tauren's temper is not very good. My servants ate your sheep last night, Caesar said. Alistar glanced at the missing sheep in the sheepfold and said, we don't care, just treat it as dedicated to you. If Kled was just a lizard man, Alistar would kill Kled without hesitation. Dare you eat a sheep? But if it was Caesar, the red dragon, Alistar decided to give him some face. Just eat it. No, you misunderstood me, Alistar. I'm not here to apologize to you on his behalf. I mean, it's your honor. Now I'm interested in the strength of you Tauren, be my servant. Caesar extended an olive branch to the Minotaur. This group of powerful Tauren are exactly the monsters he wants to conquer. Much more powerful than lizardmen and goblins. Without them, this group of Tauren would definitely be able to overwhelm the Sabertooth tribe and hunt down Obi and Kled. The gap in strength is really too big. Your Excellency Red Dragon, maybe you still don't understand the Alistar tribe. Tauren will never be slaves. We are only our own masters. Alistar decisively rejected Caesar. Why should we be your servants? This young dragon didn't even have the guts to conquer them yet. If he really made himself anxious, he wouldn't mind slaying the dragon. You have no choice, Alistar, your tribe can only surrender and be destroyed. Roar. The red dragon's mood is like extreme weather. One second it was sunny and windy, and the next second it was stormy and thunderous. Boom. The hard shrine was destroyed by Zeiss, and endless dragon power exploded. His pupils seemed to be burning with flames, and crackling thunder and fire flashed in his eyes. 2 red rays of light were released from Nishizawa's pupils. Destructive scorching rays flew toward the sheepfold. The sheepfold was easily split into 2 in the Tauren's terror. The body of the fat sheep was cut open and fell limply to the ground, exuding bursts of burning smell. Fire burned where the ray flew. The Tauren were stunned. If they faced this attack, would their bodies be able to block it? The result is obvious, it cannot be stopped, it cannot be stopped at all. Dear Lord Red Dragon, Alistar pays tribute to you on behalf of the tribe. From now on, we will be your servants and serve you. He who knows the current affairs is a hero. Alistar decisively chose to surrender. He had thought about whether this giant dragon had any secret weapons, so he brought this weak lizard warrior here unscrupulously. Now he understands. This is the dragon's own strength that gives him courage. Very well, Alistar, believe me, this is the most correct decision in your life. Follow me, and I will lead you to release the rage in your bones. Let the world become a grassland where your Tauren run with iron hooves. Let the Tauren tribe become great again. Under my leadership, you will be able to replace Baphomet and become the new king of the Horned Demon. Caesar's words. It was like a drumstick beating on Alistar's heart, making his blood boil. Alistar looked around at his people, and then he was the first to kneel down on one knee towards Zeiss, and the other Tauren followed one after another. Kled sighed inwardly when he saw this. Having Obi already made him very stressed. Now one more Tauren has been added. His position was in jeopardy. But nothing can be done. The strength lies here, even if it wants to grow, it still needs a long way to go. Dear Master, these lambs are livestock raised by our Alistar tribe. Do you want to taste them? Alistar is quite sensible. When you become Caesar's servant, the first thing you do is to show your diligence. Tauren are reckless, not stupid. Making their master happy is what all monsters do. Minotaurs are flesh-eating monsters. It's not like eating grass like a cow. Alista, how many Tauren are there in your tribe? Caesar asked. 53 in total. Alistar knew the number of people in the tribe very well. There are not many Tauren. There are only a rare 53. Although the quantity is not large, the quality is very good. These 53 Tauren can definitely crush Kled's lizard-man Sabertooth tribe, which has hundreds of members. 1 against 10, the Tauren can do it. This flock of sheep is more than enough to serve as food for the Alistar tribe. The food in the grassland is not as abundant as in the forest. Without shepherding, the Tauren would starve to death. Alista, what's on the snowy mountains in the distance? Looking into the distance with his dark red dragon eyes, Nishizawa noticed the towering snow-capped mountain in the distance. I don't know, Master. The Alistar tribe has never set foot there. We have always lived in this area. Alistar shook his head. The Minotaurs were so powerful that the surrounding creatures that knew about them moved away from the area. It can be said that the Alistar tribe does not even have a neighbor. Kled, go get Obi and those monsters over here, and rest here in the plain for a while. The previous battle with humans caused the monsters to be severely injured. Caesar himself was having fun, but these monsters were very tired. This territory that was conquered by the Tauren was just right. Yes, Master. Kled glanced at Alistar and flew away without looking back. News of this crisis must be notified to Obi immediately. Alistar noticed the unkindness in Kled's eyes towards him, but he didn't care. The dragon only values servants who are useful to him. This lizard man is simply not qualified. So what if there are signs of dragon transformation on his body? It was impossible for him to defeat his own Tauren chief. Alistair, the lizard man named Kled will come here in a while with my other servants. I leave them to you. I need to go there. Nishizawa pointed to the towering snow-capped mountains ahead. His intuition told him that there was something incredible on the snow-capped mountains. He needed to find out. No problem, my master. Alistar nodded. After Caesar ordered Alistar, he quickly flew towards the snow-capped mountains. The resulting hurricane swept through the grass and blew the mane on the back of the Tauren's head. The mighty dragon. Alistar looked up at Caesar's leaving figure. Maybe, as the master said, the Tauren will become great again. Let this continent step on the iron hooves of the Tauren. Distance. The speed of Usagi's flight made Caesar feel like a rocket heading towards the snow-capped mountains. After flying for more than 2 minutes, Caesar arrived at this snow-capped mountain. The cold wind and snow slapped the dark red dragon scales, and the biting cold wind did not have any impact on Zeiss, the red dragon. Not to mention the power of the 12 talismans, the high temperature carried by the red dragon itself was enough for him to maintain his body temperature. When encountering cold weather, the red dragon will firmly lock the high temperature in its body within its body. The condensed high temperature will keep the red dragon warm at all times. Unless the red dragon dies, his body will never get cold. The snow-covered mountains are incompatible with the emerald green plains. The clear white and green boundaries and the huge ravine formed are truly miraculous craftsmanship. The rolling snow-capped mountains are covered with heavy snow. Almost no human beings would set foot in this extremely cold place. It's strange, aren't we heading south? Why is there such a huge extremely cold place, and at a glance, there is no end in sight? A trace of doubt flashed in Zeise's dragon eyes. It doesn't make sense. I still remember Lilia once said that the land in the south will be hotter and more suitable for the survival of the Red Dragon clan. But what's going on now? What lies before him is an endless snow-capped mountain. If his clan wants to continue going south, they must cross this snow-capped mountain. If that's the case, it doesn't matter to Caesar. The problem is, there is no such snow mountain on the route south. Unless, they're going in the wrong direction. Cled, you idiot. Caesar couldn't help but cursed angrily. It was always Cled who held the map drawn by Lilia. The direction of progress is all determined by Cled. Caesar glanced at the map drawn by Lilia and paid no attention to it. Because he felt that such a trivial matter as looking at a map to find the way, he did not need to remember it deliberately. So Caesar didn't take it seriously at all. As a result, there is now a snow mountain lying in front of him. If he found out that Cled really read the map wrong, he would definitely punish the lizard man severely. Shizawa suppressed his anger and slowly landed on the snowy mountain. The heavy snow instantly buried Nishizawa's limbs, leaving only his upper body exposed. If it were a human, his entire body would be buried in the snow. Let alone survival, even walking is difficult. Red dragons like majestic mountains, but hate the cold atmosphere. Think about it for a moment. The flame halo unique to red dragons was released from Nishizawa's body, melting the surrounding snow, revealing strong and powerful limbs. The tail brushed through the snow, clearing out a large open space, revealing the original color of the mountains under the snow. It seems that no living thing can survive. In this extremely cold temperature, not even a cold monster is willing to survive. Caesar couldn't help but sigh. Even if you can adapt to this low temperature, you won't be able to survive here without enough food. After simply wandering around this snow-capped mountain, Caesar decided to leave. At this time, a smell made Caesar stop here, and his spread wings gradually retracted. It tastes the same. Caesar's eyes narrowed. This was the first time since he was born that he smelled the same kind of scent. The dragon's aura is different from other creatures. Everyone can recognize each other's dragon identities. Do you want to meet this so-called similar person? Caesar was a little worried. With the character of the five-color dragon, when you see a member of your own race, you'd better pray that you are stronger than the other person. Five-color dragons are not as united as metal dragons. If the dragon queen Tiamat did not allow people of the same race to kill each other, the number of five-color dragons would be even rarer. Among her own children, Tiamat is the most familiar. If they continue to kill each other like this, the few beliefs they have will only become less and less. Go and have a look. Think again and again. Caesar planned to meet this so-called similar person. The only person of the same kind who can appear in this extremely cold place is probably the White Fool. The White Fool that Nishizawa was thinking of was the white dragon known as the Shame of the Five-Colored Dragons. The reason why White Dragon has this title. It's because the white dragon is the smallest, weakest and most wild among the five-colored dragons. Saying it is wild-footed actually means that Beilong is like a wild beast and has no brains at all. If he encounters a white dragon, Nishizawa is confident that he can defeat the opponent with his current strength. Following the scent of similar people, Caesar came to an ice cave. The ice cave is covered with sharp ice spikes, and a mammoth skull is placed at the door, hanging on the ice spikes of the ice cave, as if to warn outsiders that the owner here is not easy to mess with. The size of the cave entrance seems to be only about 10 meters, indicating that the owner of this cave is not particularly big. In order to seek stability, Zeiss concealed his figure and walked into the extremely cold ice cave on all fours. The passage dug by Beilong was not long, only about 20 meters deep. After walking a few steps, Zeiss arrived at the white dragon's lair. Looking around, he saw that the lair was filled with frozen corpses. Among them are mammoths, walruses, trolls, centipedes. Without exception, they are all relatively small beasts and monsters. Some of the monsters haven't even reached adulthood yet. What surprised Caesar the most was that he actually saw a human skeleton. Human bones were also placed in the middle position. Unlike other frozen skeletons, this human skeleton still had clothes on. The frozen clothes clung to the human body, and the skin was covered with ice crystals. Judging from the condition of the bones, this human was probably frozen to death and showed no signs of being eaten. Because of the cold in the ice cave, the body has not yet decomposed. Caesar could tell that it was a woman's body. It looked pretty good, but it was a pity to die in the ice and snow. If you die in this snowy mountain, you won't even find anyone to help bury your body. I wonder if her family and friends are anxiously looking for her. Seeing that Bai Long must have gone out, Nishizawa lay down comfortably in the dragon's nest where Bai Long slept. He grabbed the food that was frozen by the white dragon next to him. He threw it into his mouth unceremoniously, and the blazing heat instantly melted the frozen meat and swallowed it into his belly. Caesar was not polite at all, as if he was the owner of this ice cave. It was windy and snowy outside. It was hard to believe how Bai Long could survive in such a ghost place. If it were Caesar, he would never stay here. Even the food was a big problem. If you want food to replenish your strength, you have to fly to the plains to hunt before you can come back. After waiting and waiting, Caesar took a breather. It wasn't that he was sleepy, but that he was too bored. Outside, a white dragon less than 8 meters long landed listlessly at the door of his house. The pure white scales seeped with traces of bright red blood, and the dragon's eyes were full of exhaustion. Today was another day without any food. It seems that I can only eat the food that has been stored. In this world of ice and snow, food is not easy to obtain. Therefore, unless the white dragon is particularly hungry, if it catches prey, it will use freezing breath to freeze the food. With the help of the natural low temperature of the ice cave, the food will not rot. When you really can't catch the prey and get hungry, dig it out and eat it to replenish your strength. Bai Long, who was completely exhausted, wanted to go back to his lair, eat his food, and then lie down. Unexpectedly, as soon as he arrived at the door, there was a faint smell of sulfur and pumice in front of his nose. Although Bai Long was already exhausted physically and mentally, the moment he smelled the smell, he instantly regained his energy and his mind started to buzz with alarms. You can't go wrong. It just smells of sulfur. Bai Long raised his head and looked at the ice cave in disbelief. Is this the smell that only the red dragon has? The smell that should have appeared in the crater, why did it appear in his lair? Bai Long stopped for a moment. In addition, there was the unique smell of the giant dragon in the air. Plus this sulfur smell. Although Bai Long was not very smart, he could still guess that there was most likely a red dragon lying in his lair at this moment. The big brother of the 5-color dragon. The white dragon didn't understand why the red dragon came to this snowy field and hid in his lair. The intention to retreat arose in my heart. The name of the red dragon is famous. Not only is it something that many creatures dare not provoke, but even the other friends of the 5-color dragon do not want to provoke this big brother. After all, this big brother has a bad temper. Not only that, he is also extremely arrogant. The red dragons consider themselves to be Tiamat's messengers in the mortal world, and they represent Tiamat. The other 5-color dragon companions are just servants created by Tiamat Dragon Queen to serve them. This results in the red dragon always looking down on its other 5-color dragons. Except for the red dragon himself, the other 5-color dragons are nothing. The rest of the 5-color dragons are suffering unspeakably. There is no way, I can't beat it at all. At most, the age gap is the only way to bully the red dragon. At the same age level, unless there is something wrong with the red dragon itself, other 5-color dragons have no chance of defeating the red dragon. This is the difference in bloodline. I don't blame the red dragon for being arrogant, it's mainly because no one can beat him. Bai Long lowered his body and retreated quietly, when suddenly a spiritual light flashed through him. The tunnel I dug out is only about 10 meters wide. And this red dragon can still enter its own cave. Does this mean that this red dragon is not very old? The powerful red dragon must be followed by his followers. The white dragon did not see any other monsters, and there was no other smell except the red dragon's breath. Then young red dragons and adult red dragons are all excluded. This left only the young red dragon who was about the same age as himself. He is another white dragon who is about to advance to youth. I have the advantage of age, why should I run? For a time, Bai Long's courage doubled. People say Bai Long is stupid, but in fact I am one of the smarter ones. Bai Long took a deep breath, raised his chest and raised his head to muster up his courage. The miracle of White Dragon defeating Red Dragon must be performed on himself. His fame will spread throughout the circle, letting all dragons see that the Red Dragon is not invincible. Defeat the White Dragon of the Red Dragon. When Bai Long thought about this scene, he couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth several times. Inside the ice cave, Caesar, who had closed his eyes to rest, opened his pupils. The movement coming from outside the cave entrance could not escape his ears. Ahead, the pure white dragon and the dark red dragon noticed each other at the same time, and their eyes intertwined in midair. Phew! A cold wind blew. Bai Long turned around and ran away without hesitation. My estimate was wrong. This red dragon is bigger than I imagined. Originally, the white dragon was at the bottom among the 5 color dragons, but now it is even smaller than the opponent in size. The white dragon has lost the courage to fight. Looking at Bai Long, who turned around and ran away like a little white dog, Caesar froze on the spot. What's the situation? He ran away before the fight even started. Caesar found that he seemed to have overestimated Bai Long. He thought there would be a hearty battle, but he didn't expect that the other party would just run away. This is the white dragon's lair. Still in an extremely cold place. In such a favorable time, place, and situation, I still have to run when faced with myself. His body is only 10 meters long. Although the escaped white dragon is less than 10 meters long, it is still a home battle. Is it necessary to be afraid of yourself? After regaining consciousness, Zai suddenly chased him out of the lair. It was not easy to meet the same kind of person, and it was still a kind of person that could be handled. Of course, it was impossible for Caesar to let him go so easily. Outside, Bai Long flapped his wings desperately, using his pure white body to disappear under the heavy snow in the sky in the blink of an eye. This kind of hiding method cannot be hidden from the red dragon's red eyes. Nishizawa raised his head and looked at Dashway. The smell of the white dragon in the air seemed to materialize before his eyes, pointing him in the direction in which the white dragon should escape. The snake charm pattern appears on the right eye, and the rabbit charm pattern appears on the left eye. Stealth plus super speed. Far away, Bai Long used all his strength to fly at the fastest speed in his life. When I turned around and saw that there was no that scary red figure, I finally relaxed a little. Just when Bai Long breathed a sigh of relief, a voice once again made Bai Long fearful. White beast, where do you want to run? Hear the sound and look. The terrifying red dragon suddenly appeared in front of him. Bai Long was suddenly frightened and turned around to fly away again. This time, Nishizawa was not distracted. He quickly stepped forward and grabbed the white dragon's tail. He exploded with powerful force and threw the white dragon to the ground. Boom! The white dragon's body instantly fell to the ground, setting off countless snowflakes, and its pure white body almost blended into the snowy scene. If it were an ordinary person, he would probably let Bai Long run away. Say your name, stupid white dragon. The deep voice came out of Nishizawa's mouth, like rolling thunder echoing in Bai Long's ears. The ground was basically covered with snow, so the blow just now did not cause much harm to Bai Long. After close contact, Nishizawa discovered that the white dragon was injured. The opponent's scales were still soaked with blood. It seemed that there was a powerful creature that caused a lot of damage to Bai Long. Roar! The white dragon climbed up from the snow, laid down his body, and kept letting out the low roar of a wild beast. The body keeps retreating backward. Fear and fear surrounded Bai Long's heart, making Bai Long have no desire to fight and only wanted to escape. The red dragon above his head sent waves of terrifying majesty, making Bai Long feel suffocated and his breathing stagnated. What a powerful dragon! Even Bai Long, who was a giant dragon, was suppressed to the point of becoming stiff. His beast-like eyes were full of shock, and he seemed to have no law manifestation letter. How could the red dragon, who looked about the same age as himself, be so powerful? You lowly white bug, talk to me, answer my questions. Caesar asked in ancient dragon language. Oh, noble red dragon, my dragon's real name is Carolina K. Findos Crisper. White dragon Carolina finally spoke. She was extremely afraid of the red dragon in front of her. He was afraid that the red dragon in front of him would tear his body apart in the next second. The curled tail was attached to her body, indicating Carolina's panic-stricken heart at the moment. Don't answer the red dragon's words again. Carolina was even afraid that the other party would treat her as a dragon and kill her. Only the dragon's true name can explain the dragon's identity. The dragon's true name is the dragon's ID card. If you don't have a dragon's true name, it means that you are not recognized by Tiamat Dragon Queen, and the other party can kill you. After revealing her identity as a dragon, Carolina believed that the red dragon would spare her life for the sake of Queen Tiamat. Although most white dragons are fools, they are still dragons after all, and they are dragons recognized by Queen Tiamat. You can also get the dragon inheritance. Have your own dragon's true name. Caesar raised an eyebrow. I hadn't noticed it before, but I didn't expect that the white dragon I was chasing was still a little female dragon. Feeling the red dragon's gaze, Carolina shrank her neck and said weakly, "Please forgive me, noble red dragon." Carolina was really wrong. It was obviously her lair, but she was driven out by the red dragon and beaten all the way. Now in order to beg for mercy, I have to admit my mistake to the red dragon. Is there any royal law? Oh, I am a chaotic evil monster, and it is normal to have no rules. Carolina, are you injured? By what creature? Caesar nodded and landed in front of Carolina. The strong body is in sharp contrast to Katrina, a thin and delicate white dragon. It's like a tall, strong man and a thin young man. It's giants, a group of frost giants. Carolina replied. The only person who could hurt him in this extremely cold place was the giant who was as big as a giant dragon. Frost giant. These are a group of giants who live in extremely cold places and are very powerful. In addition, because they live in groups, what frost giants like to do most is to enslave white dragons. Let the white dragon be your pet. Frost giant, you really disgrace the five-color dragon, Carolina. Caesar mocked. Carolina opened her mouth and said nothing. She could not refute. White dragon is already weak. He is not yet an adult, and he is even less likely to be an opponent of the frost giant. Go back to your lair first and then have a good conversation. Ouch. Regardless of Carolina's feelings, Caesar directly grabbed her tail and flew back towards the ice cave. Ice cave. Return to the ice cave again. Carolina had resigned herself to her fate and followed Caesar obediently. Pointing at the human corpse with his sharp dragon claws, Caesar asked, "Who is this human being? Do you know him?" She is a princess of a human country. Because she didn't want to marry a man she didn't like, she asked me to take her away. So you brought them to this snowy mountain with nothing? Caesar looked at Carolina speechlessly. In other words, this human being was killed by Carolina. The mainland is so big, you can go anywhere, but you chose this snow-capped mountain. Not to mention the lack of food, even this extremely cold weather can freeze this human to death. She asked me to take her to the place that I think is the best. I think this place is very good. Carolina explained aggrievedly. Her original intention was not to kill this human being, but she really wanted to have fun with him. Who would have thought that people would freeze to death on the first night? Bailong didn't know how to make fire, and his body temperature was even colder. It was reasonable for this human being to die of cold. After hearing this, Caesar finally understood. After working on it for a long time, I found out that the two species have different understandings. Carolina's words were not nonsense. This snowy mountain was really a good place for Bailong. Apart from the lack of food, Bailong liked the environment here. How did you meet her? Caesar asked. I'm not afraid of your jokes. The place where I was born is in the human world. When I was still a dragon egg, I was sold to the royal family of this country. Carolina talked about her past. As a white dragon who grew up in the human world, she has pretty good senses for humans. The princess even became her friend. Otherwise, she would not have escaped from the royal family with the princess and came to this freezing snow-capped mountain. After finding out that the princess was dead, she was very sad and shed a few tears. Then just take care of your own life. No matter how hungry he was, he did not eat the princess's body. This is pretty good for the chaotic evil beast white dragon, and she does treat the princess as a friend. A white dragon born in the human world. Carolina, didn't they bind you with any contract? Caesar asked doubtfully. Dragons can be enslaved. To force the other party, especially when Carolina was just born, you can use a slave contract to forcefully control Carolina. Make Carolina a servant of humanity. Rena, that's her, She is my human master, but the slave contract disappeared with her death. Carolina looked at the dead Princess Lena. This is his master. Quote. I now have reasonable doubts that you have a very good mind. Could it be that you deliberately brought Reina to the snowy mountains to freeze her to death and then regain her freedom? Caesar felt that this was the truth. I didn't want to kill Reina. I really just wanted to protect her at first. Carolina explained anxiously. Looking at her nervous explanation, Caesar suddenly felt that the white dragon Carolina in front of him was so cute. If he could. You played Xingyu against a young white dragon and gained 100 evil points. Closing square bracket. What words? What words? How can you insult Long's innocence out of thin air? Caesar was suddenly brought back to reality from his fantasy by the voice of the system. Shake the evil fantasies from your mind. Bah, I almost forgot, Carolina hasn't even reached adolescence yet. But, maybe I can take it as a child bride, hee. Caesar suddenly felt so evil. In the human world, wouldn't it be just that he was interested in a little Lolita? Fortunately, he is a dragon now, and human rules cannot control him. Honorable Red Dragon, please don't hurt me. I can give you all these things, except Reina's body. Carolina always felt that Caesar was looking at her with malicious eyes. It made her feel bad. Such a scary look. I always feel like it's going to be detrimental to me. I don't like these things about you. Carolina, you have two choices. One is to surrender to me and accept me as your master, and the other is to die. What do you choose? To force Carolina to make a choice. Caesar also made use of his dragon power when he spoke, and his terrifying majesty made Carolina breathless. Under Zeise's control, the dark red dragon scales all lit up with red light, illuminating the dark lair. You can't do this. Dragon Queen Tiamat forbids us from killing each other. Carolina used Queen Tiamat's words as a shield for herself. No matter what, the other party cannot kill himself. Unless the red dragon has decided not to believe in Dragon Queen Tiamat. But what's the result? It will definitely arouse Tiamat's Dragon Queen's rage and unleash horrific divine punishment. Forbid us from killing each other. Carolina, maybe you can try and see if I dare to kill you. Using the reputation of Her Majesty the Dragon Queen Tiamat to suppress me, I tell you, it's useless. Dragon Queen Tiamat does not always pay attention to the situation on her side. Of course Caesar is no match for Tiamat, and he will definitely not kill Carolina. However, dragons are prohibited from fighting each other, but there is no prohibition against destroying each other. Many giant dragons will take advantage of the loopholes. Since they can't kill you, they will torture you until you want to commit suicide. Carolina was horrified. The red dragon in front of him actually said such treacherous words. She doesn't even pay attention to Her Majesty the Dragon Queen's rules. Carolina, tell me your choice. Bang! Caesar stepped forward and slapped his heavy claws on the ground, causing the ice spikes hanging on the ice cave to teeter. It could fall off at any time. But this doesn't matter to the two giant dragons. Even if the cave collapses, they can still dig it out. The hole Carolina dug was not deep. I am willing to surrender. I am willing. Shrouded in the aura of death, Carolina chose to surrender without hesitation. If it were another white dragon, he would still struggle. Carolina had no struggle. I have been enslaved by humans since I was born, so what if I am enslaved by a red dragon now? Isn't it just a matter of changing the owner? You can live if you endure it, so why not do it? Besides, Caesar is still a red dragon, a big thigh. She needs to hold on tight. Wise choice, stupid Carolina, you still have some good ideas. The corners of Caesar's mouth raised slightly. The thick dragon claw was raised and pressed on Carolina's petite dragon head. One of his claws could cover Carolina's head. I, Caesar Fafnir Leyden Nidhogg, hereby sign a master-servant contract with Carolina K. Findos Crisper. The threads intertwined with the power of rules pulled the souls of the two people. Caesar randomly took out a piece of white paper from the system space, and the golden thread quickly sketched the contents of the master-servant contract on the white paper. The flickering golden light reflected on the faces of the two giant dragons, illuminating the cave. Carolina closed her eyes in a familiar manner and used the power of her soul to communicate the rules. In the column of the slave's name on the master-servant contract, Carolina's name was written. It's not just signing, it's signing your soul. The contract ends. The golden light disappeared. Slave the white dragon and get 1500 evil points. Closing square bracket. Caesar received the master-servant contract between himself and Carolina into the system space. Contracts are all good. The only bad thing is that if the slave finds an opportunity to steal the contract and tear it up, the contract will be invalidated directly, allowing the slave to regain his freedom. With Caesar's strength, he doesn't have to worry about Carolina doing that, but just in case, it's better to keep it in the system space. This makes it easier to take out. Maybe one day in the future, he can return Carolina's freedom. This is the first time that Caesar has used a contract, and even Lilia has not done so. Because Lilia is already in the shape of Caesar. Master, Carolina called cautiously. I hope your future doesn't disappoint me, Carolina. Caesar caressed Carolina's face. Carolina showed an expression of enjoyment. I won't, master. It's a pity that she doesn't know what kind of disappointment Nishizawa is talking about. Caesar retracted his paw and said, follow me. Wait a moment, master. Carolina suddenly stopped Caesar. Caesar turned around in confusion. Rena is my friend. Although she is dead, can you please let me take her with me? I don't want her to stay here so lonely. Carolina looked at the dead body of Rena. Although Rena died, at least she still had a dragon friend like herself by her side. But if she leaves, Rena will really have no friends by her side. When you ran away after seeing me before, did you ever think about this friend? Caesar said angrily. He didn't even react at the time, and Carolina had already run away. Whenever Carolina thought of Rena at that time, she would never turn around and run away so decisively. I thought at the time that you were a red dragon and it was impossible to stay in the snowy mountains for such a long time. You would eventually leave. I just plan on waiting for you to leave and then come back. Carolina was embarrassed to explain. She's quite smart. I know that even if the red dragon occupies its own lair, it will never be able to occupy it for long. After all, this place is not suitable for red dragons to survive. It is impossible for the red dragon to give up his favorite volcanic peak and choose to live in this cold snow mountain. Then you are quite smart, but have you ever thought that the reason why this human corpse did not rot is because of the low temperature in this snow-capped mountain? If you take this human with you, her body will stink and rot in less than a day. Caesar said. After listening to Caesar's words, Carolina didn't know what to say. Forget it, since I am your master, I will help you. No way. Who makes Nishizawa kind-hearted? Seeing the reluctance on Carolina's face, he opened the system space and took in Reina's body. It just so happened that Reina died and the system space was taken in. Coupled with the stagnant time characteristics of the system space, there is no need to worry about Reina's body rotting and smelling. The claws flicked over Reina's body, and Reina's body disappeared out of thin air. Gone, Carolina said in surprise. His eyes were full of wisdom. I'll eat you, let's go. Caesar rolled his eyes at Carolina and said. Ah, master, you. Why did you eat my friend? Carolina believed it. I really thought that Caesar swallowed Reina's body. She looked sadly at Nishizawa's belly, as if she could see her friend's undigested body through the thick scales. No wonder you white dragons are beasts that don't understand anything. I finally understand, you don't have any brains at all. Caesar was wondering if he would become stupid if he touched Carolina. Huh, what does that mean? Carolina tilted her head in confusion. Plain, the master has not come back yet. The lizards and goblins, led by Cled and Obi, drew a clear line with the Tauren led by Alistar in front of them. There is a line between the two races, and no one will cross it. The Tauren relied on his strong body and looked at the monster with disdain. They believe that when the master comes back and as time passes, the master will understand that the role of the Tauren is much stronger than this group of lizards and goblins with thin arms and legs. Cled, why does it take master so long to go to the snowy mountains? Obi asked curiously. I don't know. The master is a dragon, a noble dragon. We can guess the dragon's thoughts. Cled shook his head, his eyes still on Alistar. The Tauren looked at them with extremely unfriendly eyes. If they didn't all have a master, they would definitely fight. Wow. As Alistar stood up, the monsters on both sides started to move, and they stood up and clenched their weapons. The probability of a fight between chaotic and evil monsters without the management of a master is more than 80%. Just when everyone thought Alistar was about to take action, Alistar said, "If you are hungry, you can eat the sheep next to you." "Thank you, I'm not hungry." Cled breathed a sigh of relief. If there was a real fight, he wouldn't have the courage to face Alistar. This Tauren is too strong. With a height of 5 meters, he can be wielded as a weapon in his hands. "We Tauren have no ill intentions towards you. We are all servants of our master." Alistar spoke. Compared to other Tauren, Alistar is smarter. He took a look at his master's monster army. It should be said that it was very weak. But it's better in numbers. Even if the Tauren join, the master's focus will most likely be on the lizardmen. The number of Tauren is too small and it is impossible to regard them as the main force. Therefore, in order to integrate better, Alistar must have a good relationship with Cled and Obi. "We will all be colleagues in the future, so there is no need to remain malicious to your colleagues." "Leader Alistar, I understand what you mean, but your people don't seem to think so." Cled saw the disdain and contempt for the lizardmen on the faces of the other Tauren. "Give them some time and they will accept you." Alistar just finished explaining. There was a sound of flying in the distance. "Their master is back." The monsters who heard the noise raised their heads and looked up. The red clouds on the horizon gradually light up, and the flight of the red dragon carries a cloud of clouds, as if burning the clouds on the horizon. "Cled, you stupid lizard." Before Caesar even fell, the reproach from the sky came down first. This made Cled, who had been looking forward to his master's return, stunned. What happened? Why did the master suddenly curse himself? He didn't wait for Cled to react. The wind and waves generated by Nishizawa's landing immediately blew Cled to the ground. At the same time, the monsters discovered that in addition to the giant dragon of their master, there was also a smaller white dragon following the master. Caesar's scolding just now made the other monsters dare not speak at all. The angry dragon stepped forward, spraying hot air from its nostrils. "I need an explanation from you, Cled." The red dragon's roar was like thunder, nearly tearing Cled's eardrums apart. Cled quickly got up, knelt on the ground, and asked in confusion and fear, "Master, what does this mean?" To this day, he still doesn't understand why his master scolded him when he came back from a trip. "You stupid lizard, tell me, did you read the map wrong?" Nishizawa questioned. Otherwise, even if there were some changes in the route, it would never be so outrageous as to arrive in front of a snow-capped mountain range. "Did you see it wrong?" "No. Impossible." Cled hurriedly took out the map drawn by Lilia from the small backpack hanging on his waist. He pointed to a direction on the map and said, "That's right, master, aren't you going to the south?" "Idiot, your map is wrong." Caesar stretched his neck slightly and noticed that the map in Cled's hand had fallen over. No wonder he said something was not right and came to a snowy mountain. It took a long time. Cled the idiot got the map. I'm overwhelmed." Cled was so frightened that he quickly turned the map over in his hand. I broke into a cold sweat for a while. What Miss Lilia said to him at that time came to mind. "That's north, that's south. I will definitely remember the promise I made." "Did not expect, master. I really didn't mean it. I beg you to forgive my stupidity." Cled was so frightened that he let go of the map with his hands, crawled on the ground, and begged Caesar for forgiveness. Helping the master show the way, he led the clan for more than a week, but in the end he looked in the wrong direction. If it were other dragon clans, even if the dragon killed him, it would be a normal punishment. Carolina couldn't understand what Caesar and Cled were talking about, and her little eyes kept looking at these monsters. Didn't you expect that red dragon, who was also a teenager, could already control such a large clan? Carolina was very envious. When she saw the Tauren Alistar, her pupils shrank. What a strong Tauren! If there was a fight, with my small body, I might be hunted by this Tauren. Feeling Carolina's gaze, Alistar raised his head and looked at the white dragon. The white dragon is so weak, but its dragon power is much inferior to its master. The two are not on the same level at all. If the dragon that appeared in front of him with the lizard man was not his master, but the white dragon in front of him, Alistar would choose to slay the dragon without hesitation. Such a weak dragon is not worthy of enslaving himself. Caesar's angry curses kept coming one after another. Cled lay on the ground and covered his head. His wings shrank, and he lost all his previous high spirits. After a while, Caesar finally stopped yelling. As punishment, Cled was stripped of his position as leader of the Blatafang tribe, and instead let the Tauren Alistar take over the Blatafang tribe. Alistar and Cled are not equal in strength. They are both leaders, so there will definitely be a lot of friction in the future. Rather than doing this, it is better to take this opportunity and let Alistar conquer these lizardmen. Let this group of lizardmen take a good look at how huge the gap is between them and the Tauren. As soon as these words came out, all the lizardmen looked in disbelief. Even if Cled was not the leader, why did the master let the Tauren be the leader of their lizardmen? Thank you, master, for your trust. After hearing this, Alistar stepped forward and knelt on the ground without any hesitation, taking over this important task. The Tauren of the Alistar tribe all showed proud expressions towards the lizard men. Did you see that? This is the Red Dragon clan that respects the strong. We are stronger than you, so you must obey us obediently. Cled's eyes lost their luster and he lowered his head in loneliness. Just because of his own negligence, the Blade-Tooth tribe became a vassal of the Tauren, which he couldn't accept. But this is the master's order. No matter how reluctant you are, you must accept it obediently. Obi, I'm here, master. Caesar's soft cry made Obi crawl around in fright. He thought to himself that there must be nothing wrong with him. It was Cled who read the map, and Cled showed the way. He followed his instructions the whole time. You still have your own tribe, listen to Carolina. Caesar gave Obi and his group of goblins to Carolina to manage. Obi followed his master's gaze and seemed indifferent when he saw Carolina, the white dragon. Anyway, without Carolina, the goblins are just vassals of the lizardmen. The current master's words are nothing more than changing their vassal objects, from lizardmen to white dragons. From a certain perspective, they advanced. Carolina pointed at herself in surprise. Is it okay to leave a monster tribe under my own control? Having grown up in the human world since she was a child, she doesn't know how to manage a tribe of monsters. She thought that becoming Caesar's servant was like serving her original master Reina, and that she could just step in and fight when needed. Of course, Carolina, give yourself some confidence. You are a great dragon. No matter how small your status among the 5 color dragons is, you are still a dragon. Do you understand? Caesar raised his paw and tapped Carolina's chest. He signaled her not to forget her identity as a dragon. Every dragon is a qualified leader. This does not need to be taught by others, it is an innate ability. Carolina now just doesn't have enough confidence in herself. I'll try my best, master. Carolina nodded. I hope that if I do something stupid in the future, my master can forgive me. Carolina looked back at Obi and the goblins. Obi smiled symbolically and responded to Carolina with a flattering look. Noticing Obi's eyes, Carolina felt secretly happy for some reason. Is this what it feels like to be a superior? For a time, Carolina, who was originally depressed, straightened up a lot. Master, where are we going next? Cled asked depressedly. It was all my fault that I had read the map wrong, which caused everyone to travel for so long and come to the north, which the Red Dragon Master hated the most. Not only that, but he also lost control of his Blade-Tooth tribe. Now all lizard folk must obey the orders of the Tauren Alistar. There must be many companions who hate me. No matter which race you are, you can't stand letting other races ride on your head. What do you mean, dragon? That's okay. Following the dragon is their honor and a gift from their master. Going back south, that's not our destination. Although he was angry at Cled's stupid behavior, Caesar still wanted to go back. The north is the territory of the giants. Once his giant dragon comes here and is discovered by other giants, it will definitely arouse the hatred and encirclement of the giants. The chance of annihilation is 100%. The giants have a distinct hierarchy. The giants headed by the Cloud Giants have even established a giant city-state. It's not as chaotic as the 5-colored dragons doing their own thing. Because of the union of giants, giants also have a title, Dragon Killer. Giants and dragons are mortal enemies, and when they meet, it's either you or me who will die. It is impossible for Caesar to establish his own Red Dragon Empire on the territory of this giant. This is impossible. Unless he has the power to crush all living beings in this plane. Yes, Ever since, the Red Dragon clan led by Zeiss rested in the plains for 2 or 3 days before embarking on their journey to southern Xinjiang again. During the flight, Carolina was grabbed by Destiny's neck by Caesar, and they entered a state of invisibility together. Lest this idiot cause unnecessary trouble, Carolina and Alistar were dumbfounded by Caesar's invisibility method. The master actually mastered the means of invisibility. Can you imagine a scene where a terrifying giant dragon hides its figure and then suddenly appears in the middle of the battlefield? This is equivalent to a nuclear bomb appearing and exploding silently on the battlefield. Walking among the mountains, the Tauran leader Alistar suddenly stopped, sniffed hard with his big bull nose, raised his head and shouted to the sky, "Master! What's wrong, Alistar?" Caesar slowly fell from the sky with Carolina. As the snake talisman lost its effect, the white dragon's pure white body and his dark red dragon body appeared in front of the monster. There is a very heavy smell in the air. I can't distinguish it, but according to the direction of the smell and the speed we are going, it won't be long before we catch up. Alistar explained. The Tauran do not have the dragon heritage like a dragon bug. Creatures that have not been seen, their owners cannot smell. It's an elf, it has a very strong scent of natural elements, with a hint of fragrance. Before Caesar could speak, Carolina sniffed and answered the question. Born in the human world, she had seen elves before and was very familiar with this aura. Elves are the darlings of the natural elements. Legend has it that they are human messengers created by the goddess of nature. Therefore, elves are basically associated with purity and beauty. Except drow. Elves are born with extremely powerful elemental sensing abilities. Every elf grows up to be a powerful elf mage. Elf, are you sure it only smells like elves? Caesar asked. Yes, master, Carolina affirmed. There are absolutely no other races involved. It's interesting. If these elves don't stay well in their own elf kingdom, what are they doing here? In this world, the elves have established their own kingdom. Thousands of years ago, because the elves were divided and established their own tribes, they were hunted and sold by many races, and they were bullied into misery. At this time, an elf king stood up and advocated that the elves unite and form a kingdom to fight against the invaders. They all have one mother and Faith, the holy goddess of nature, and they are a family. With the blessing of Faith and the charisma of the elf king, the elves scattered around the world gradually united and established the elf kingdom a little north of the mainland. Of course, not all elves live in the elf kingdom. There are still a small number of elves living in tribes in the wild. Smell, the opponent's number is not large. Alistar, you lead the monsters to follow. Carolina and I will go to the front to take a look. Caesar planned to explore the road and see what was going on with these elves. Training fallen elves is exciting just thinking about it. For some reason, Carolina felt that Caesar beside her was so scary. Just as she was about to say no, Caesar grabbed her by the neck and quickly disappeared and flew forward. Listening to the hurricane roaring in her ears, Carolina knew that she could not escape Caesar's clutches. Ahead, 9 elves were walking on the road, and an atmosphere of decadence and loneliness permeated the team. Everyone, cheer up. When we reach the kingdom, we can take revenge. The leading elf is an elf with a stunning face. Her long blonde hair danced in the breeze behind her head, and her curvy figure was obscured by the thick mage robe, but her beautiful curves could still be seen. Looking at the elves behind her, a trace of distress flashed through her beautiful eyes. They were originally elves from an elven tribe. They were invaded by orcs, and the elves in the elven tribe ran away to death. In the end, there were only 9 of them left. As the eldest daughter of the elf queen, Elenia the elf became the temporary leader of everyone. She advocated taking everyone to the elf kingdom established by the elf king, which was unanimously approved by everyone. It is a pity that everyone was depressed during that invasion. The spirit of the past is gone. Elenia, can we really walk to the elf kingdom on foot? A male elf smiled bitterly. With their strength, they might be eaten by monsters on the road. They encountered a group of kobolds in front of them. Fortunately, there were not many kobolds, so they barely escaped from the encirclement. Elenia could not answer her companion. Even she herself didn't have high hopes. All that can be done for them is to pray for the goddess's mercy and blessing. Holy goddess, please cast your eyes on us, look at us, and bless us to survive. I don't know if your goddess can bless you, but you'd better pray to survive the dragon's mouth now. Chapter 51. Who is it? Sudden sound. This mentally and physically exhausted elf instantly became more energetic. Being able to appear in the wild, speaking fluent Elvish, coupled with the disrespect for the goddess. What appeared next to them was definitely a monster with high IQ. This kind of monster is much more difficult to deal with than ordinary kobolds. Boom. Next moment, a strong wind blows down from the sky, causing the green leaves on the treetops to rustle and fall, leaves flying across the sky. Dust was everywhere on the ground, a pair of huge dragon wings covered the sky and the sun, and a ferocious red dragon came into view. The dark red dragon scale color absorbs the light in the sky and plunges the earth into darkness. The smell of sulfur pumice is extremely pungent. The surging dragon power like a tsunami swept across, scaring the group of elves from raising their heads to face the terrifying thing that appeared in the sky. It was a terrifying red dragon. Yes, it's a red dragon. How come? Why does a red dragon appear in the north? Holy goddess, is this your blessing? It's finished, we're completely finished. The elf slumped helplessly on the ground. The weapon in his hand fell to the ground with a bang, as if he couldn't resist at all. 170. They were already exhausted. When they saw Zeiss, the red dragon, they felt despair and dropped their powerless hands. After escaping from the tribe and facing a group of crazy wild dogs, he almost got himself killed. Not to mention the red dragon, one of the 5 colored dragons. Facing this kind of natural disaster level superior species, the only thing that greets them is death. Why? Why is this happening? Pain appeared on Elenia's beautiful face. She knelt on the ground and closed her hands tremblingly. Her beautiful eyes slowly closed, and a line of crystal clear tears fell down. The pure white and clean robes were stained with dirty dust. It's indeed an elf. Carolina's eyes lit up, and her greedy eyes passed over the famous elf. Elf, one of the favorite foods of Wheelong. The tender and juicy elf tastes as rough as other monster meat. Tender and sweet, it is the favorite taste of evil dragons. This taste has even entered the dragon's inheritance, allowing every evil dragon to know the delicious taste of elves. If it weren't for her master Nishizawa by her side, Carolina would have been unable to resist eating these elves. The elf was so frightened that he could not speak when facing the dragon. The red dragon's notorious reputation made them anticipate what they were about to encounter. Nothing more than being eaten by a dragon. Instead of dying in the hands of the orcs, he died in the mouth of the red dragon. If you calculate it this way, they may still be lucky. At least dragons are a noble species. It is better to die in the hands of a noble dragon than those filthy orcs. Master, can you give me one? Carolina said with a pitiful wagging of her tail. Caesar glanced at Carolina, then looked at the elf kneeling at his feet. Tell me your name, elf. My name is Elenia, the red dragon. Elenia raised her face full of tears. Are you asking for the name of the food? This red dragon is a bit too evil. As expected of a dragon. Let Elenia the elf feel the evil taste of the evil dragon and gain 100 evil points. Hearing the sound of the system, Caesar was slightly stunned. It seems like he hasn't done anything yet. Why did Elenia feel so bad? Just asking for a name. Does this involve the bad taste of evil dragons? I haven't even used my tricks yet. Tell me, Elenia, how did you get here? Looking at the elves in front of them, they had no fighting spirit, and their eyes were broken and without any highlights. Those who didn't know, thought that the evil red dragon, Zeiss, had done something to them. He was curious about what these elves had gone through. Caesar's question made Elenia, an elf, confused. Why didn't this evil dragon take action? According to the legendary evil dragon, shouldn't he eat them immediately? Carolina next to her couldn't understand Caesar's operation, but she didn't dare to say anything. He squatted beside him obediently, waiting for when Caesar would give him a piece of meat to eat. Elenia was in a trance. It was not until the hot breath from the red dragon hit her face that she came back to her senses and slowly opened her mouth to explain. At least for now, it seems that this rumored evil dragon still has a chance to communicate. Elenia didn't want to anger the evil dragon in front of her unless she had to. That's it, noble red dragon. To survive, Elenia's name has changed, from the original evil red dragon to the noble red dragon. They were originally elves living in Muyu Forest. They were carefree and had been living well in Muyu Forest. Until the orcs came, the orcs ruthlessly destroyed their tribe, and the war burned wantonly among the tribe. With the help of the Elf Queen, Ilenia and the others escaped from the orcs' pursuit and became the only survivors of the tribe. They remembered Her Majesty the Queen's instructions before her death and went to the Elf Kingdom in the northwest to seek help from the Elf King. If the kind-hearted Elf King knew what happened to them, he would definitely lend a helping hand to help them drive away the orcs. But what they didn't expect was that they encountered a hunting kobold team on the way. The kobolds fought with the elves. This battle caused the elves to suffer casualties again, and eventually only 9 of them were left one after another. This is the story of what happened to us. Noble Red Dragon, please raise your hand. If you feel hungry, I am willing to be your food. I just ask you to let them go. Ilenia is even willing to sacrifice herself in exchange for the lives of other companions. After hearing Ilenia's words, the eyes of other sluggish elves regained some clarity. Ilenia. No, Ilenia, if we die, we will die together. Eat me first. Dragon. As elf guards, they cannot just watch Miss Ilenia die in front of them. Miss Ilenia should not have died for them. Carolina listened to their words, her mouth watered, and she wanted to grab everything, but in the end she ate it all, making you reunited in her belly. Quiet. Boom. The destructive aura rushed towards the face, making this group of noisy elves instantly quiet, and their souls were trembling. The terrifying eyes swept across the group of elves, making the group of elves, breathing stagnate. Finally, Caesar's eyes stopped on Ilenia. His extremely aggressive gaze made Ilenia subconsciously cross her arms to cover her broad mind. She had a vague feeling of bad premonition. I hope it won't be what she thinks. 0. It is said that elves are creatures of the goddess of nature. I really want to know if this rumor is true. Caesar smiled softly. Just like the 5-color dragon is the child of Queen Tiamat, we elves are also the children of the goddess of nature. Ilenia replied. Tiamat's name is widely known across the continent. This is due to the 5-color dragon child she created. The 5-color dragons who have established the Dragon Kingdom will establish the faith of Dragon Queen Tiamat in their own kingdom, so that all monsters in the kingdom believe in Tiamat. Replenish Tiamat with a steady stream of power of faith. Beautiful, pure, you elves are really the masterpieces of the goddess of nature, so beautiful. Caesar praised the elf without hesitation. His exaggeration made the group of elves nervous. Even Ilenia had a slight change in view of Caesar. This red dragon seemed to be different from the rumors. At least he's not that bad-tempered. If other red dragons were called evil dragons, they would have taken action long ago. Immediately afterwards, Caesar suddenly stretched out his claws and reached towards Ilenia. This sudden scene startled the elves. Are you finally going to take action? Ilenia closed her eyes in resignation. But after a long time, the imagined pain did not come. His long eyelashes trembled slightly. When he opened his eyes, he saw Caesar holding him in the palm of his hand. The ferocious and terrifying dragon head was right in front of her eyes, making Ilenia's heart beat wildly. The deep red dragon eyes are like the door of hell, opening the door to yourself. If you are not careful, your soul will fall into hell. Do you want revenge, Ilenia? Caesar held Ilenia in his hand and looked at her carefully. He is truly worthy of being an elf, so perfect that he cannot find a single flaw. The skin is as smooth as jade, without any blemishes. There are no pores on the face, not even a trace of hair can be seen, it is perfect. Looking at the beautiful Ilenia, from a distance, it looks like a giant dragon holding a jade-carved figure, extremely beautiful. Revenge. A trace of surprise flashed across Ilenia's pretty face. That's right, revenge. The orcs have trampled on your compatriots and hunted your compatriots. Don't you have any anger at all? Caesar was ready to draw out Ilenia's anger. Of course I want revenge, but we can't do anything, so we can only ask the Elf King for help. Ilenia lowered her head and placed her hands on her slender and plump thighs, clenching her hands tightly into fists. What can she do? She was so weak that she couldn't even take revenge. Elf King, you can't get there. It's too far away for you. Instead of asking for help from the Elf King, why don't you ask for my help? Your help? Ilenia raised her face in surprise, almost wondering if she heard something wrong. The red dragon in front of me said, asking for his help. It would not just take the initiative to destroy others, but also help others. This is simply unbelievable and unheard of. Not only Ilenia, but also the elf who was slumped on the ground and Carolina who was squatting next to her were stunned. Carolina. No, master, you were not so friendly when you beat me up in the extremely cold place. As you all know, what I, Caesar Fafnir, like most is to help others. Facing the elf Ilenia, Caesar decided to adopt a different approach to education. Helping others. Carolina curled her lips, she would not believe Caesar's words. The previous time in the extremely cold place, Caesar had never been so friendly to her. The first thing he did when they met was to beat her up. Are you willing to help me take revenge? Elenia's eyes were stunned. A red dragon helps the elves to take revenge, and the holy goddess of nature is above. I am afraid that this is such a whimsical dream that I have never dreamed of. Of course, as I said, I'm very happy to help. Caesar chuckled. Elenia looked happy for a moment. If the red dragon in front of him is really willing to help him get revenge, then what does a mere orc mean? It's just, you are a kind race, are you sure you want to rely on me, an evil race, to complete your revenge? Caesar's words were undoubtedly the cold water that extinguished the fire of revenge in Elenia's heart. Elenia lowered her head. Yes, she is a kind creature. They are two different camps from this group of evil creatures. Seeking the power of the red dragon for revenge, isn't this equivalent to joining the evil camp of the red dragon? When Ilenia was in trouble, the elves below who heard the conversation looked at each other. If they really seek help from the evil dragon, it means they have betrayed their beliefs. But the advantage is that they can go back immediately to avenge their dead compatriots and bury the bodies of their companions. They couldn't make the decision for Elenia. Revenge or keep faith, this is a difficult question. Elenia was in incomparable torment at the moment. She wished she could go back and skin those orcs alive. But this requires the help of the red dragon. Losing faith means that this elf is no different from a drow. He will no longer be accepted by his tribe. Noble Mr. Caesar, can you let them go? Elenia knew her request was stupid, but she still wanted to ask something. If she could let go of her companions, she might be able to give it a try. As long as the red dragon in front of her avenges herself, Elenia will immediately choose to commit suicide. By committing suicide, she told the goddess of nature that her soul was still holy and her belief in the goddess had never changed. Elenia had just finished asking. There was a tremor in the surrounding woods. A group of monsters quickly surrounded the place. These monsters were Shizawa's dependents. They hurriedly and slowly caught up with them. The appearance of monsters frightened the elves. Especially the strong Tauren, the pair of railways can easily crush them. Master, we are late, Alistar said. When Caesar and Carolina flew out, Alistar quickened his pace, but it took him so long to finally catch up. Don't be afraid, they are my dependents. Sensing Elenia's fear and panic in his pause, Caesar gently comforted her. His gentle expression is hard to associate with the violent and cruel red dragon. Of course, it would be nice if Nishizawa's appearance could be cuter. Are they all your dependents? Mr. Nishizawa. Elenia stuck out her head and looked down at the tall Tauren. Even orcs would be trampled to pieces if they encountered this group of Tauren. Of course, they are all my followers, Elenia. Nishizawa raised his head proudly, and the dragon wings behind him spread out, covering the sky and the sun, like clouds hanging from the sky, forming a huge shadow. The dragon's wings are twice as large as its body size. Only such strong wings can carry the dragon into the sky. Although the dragon can use levitation, wings are the key to the dragon's flight. Elenia, you just said you wanted me to let your companions go, right? Getting back to business, Nishizawa returned to the topic. Yes, Mr. Nishizawa. Elenia nodded hurriedly. The corner of Caesar's mouth raised slightly. Of course there is no problem, Elenia. Alistar, make way for me and let these elves leave. Yes, my master. Alistar waved his hand decisively, surrounded the monsters here, and instantly made way for a passage. Thanks. Elenia thanked Caesar and said to her companions on the ground, you leave quickly. Go to the elf kingdom and live a good life there. What about you, Elenia? An elf raised his head and asked. You don't have to worry about me. Elenia shook her head. Looking at Elenia's eyes, all the elves present knew what Elenia was planning to do. She is ready to rely on the power of the red dragon to take revenge. Elenia has no patience to seek help from the Elf Kingdom. So what if the Elf Kingdom sends elf troops to help with revenge? By then, the orc murderer who destroyed their tribe would probably have disappeared. Rather than doing this, it is better to rely on the power of the red dragon to take revenge on the orcs. I understand, Elenia, take care. I will seek help from the Elf King. The elves welcome you at any time, Elenia, we are waiting for you in the Elven Kingdom. Goodbye, Elenia. These elves are not pretentious. Elenia has won a way out for them, and they cannot let down Elenia. The elves picked up their weapons again and left here under the gaze of the monsters. Looking at the retreating figures of her companions, a faint smile appeared on the corner of Elenia's mouth. As long as they are alive, the Elenia tribe will not perish. Elenia wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and said with firm eyes, Mr. Caesar, I need your power as a red dragon to help me get revenge. Revenge, how wonderful, I will let you experience the pleasure of revenge. Let's go, show me the way. Caesar put Elenia in his hands and flew into the air. Master, you don't want to eat these elves. Carolina came back to her senses and hurriedly flew up to catch up. Just watching the delicious food leave, she felt anxious inside. However, the Master Caesar doesn't care and wants to take Elenia to take revenge. Is this a red dragon? Seeing his master leaving again, Alistar subconsciously wanted to continue the pursuit with his monster troops. Unexpectedly, Cled stopped him. What's wrong? Alistar thought Cled was dissatisfied with him. After all, he stole Cled's leadership position. Don't get me wrong, this is your first time joining the Master's clan, and you don't understand the Master's character yet. This is normal. Do you know why the Master didn't invite us to join him? Cled asked rhetorically. Forgotten, Alistar wondered. He didn't understand what Cled was talking about. The Master wants us to kill those elves. Obi spoke up at this time. They are very familiar with this routine. The group of knights in Lilia had tried it once before. But didn't the Master let them go? Alistar's bull brain is a little hard to turn around. Ha ha ha, let them go. Leader Alistar, you really underestimate the evil of the red dragon. You think that a dragon like our master is so vicious. Would you be so kind as to let the elves go and then help them get revenge? Cled couldn't help but laugh. To be honest, when I first heard about the master's plan, I thought the master was too evil. Lilia had obviously promised to let the knights go. As a result, he was killed by another knight in the blink of an eye. Not only did they kill him, but they also asked the goblins to pretend to be knights and verbally insult Lilia, causing Lilia to completely switch sides, causing the faith in her heart to collapse. Quote. I see. Alistar is not stupid. It didn't take long to figure it out. Yes, his master is one of the 5 colored dragons, the red dragon. How can there be such kindness? He thought of his master too well. It has to be said that Caesar's previous performance was too confusing. Even Alistar was deceived, let alone the elf Elenia. If you understand, let's catch up. Cled spreads his wings and flies high. He can't wait. Upon seeing this, Alistar immediately led the Tauren in pursuit. The monsters are very fast. Although the elves wanted to leave this judicial system as soon as possible, they were chased by the monsters in the blink of an eye. You are the descendants of the red dragon. What do you want to do? I advise you not to move. Your master has promised to let us go. Are you betraying your master? If the red dragon finds out, you won't get any good results. The elves looked at the monsters that surrounded them, and couldn't help but threaten the monsters with Caesar. These monsters must be crazy. Their master Hong Long promised to let them go in front of everyone. Aren't the monsters slapping the red dragon in the face by doing this? It's the master who promised to let you go. What do you want to do for us? Cradian said shamelessly, eyes dark. He wanted to vent all the troubles he had suffered during this period on the elf. I knew this red dragon wasn't that kind. Oh no, Elenia is in danger. An elf gritted his teeth and said, at this time, you are still worried about your companions. Worry about yourself first. Obi swung his mace, just about to take action. A huge figure was even faster than him and stepped forward to grab the nearest elf. Before the elf could struggle, Alistar grabbed both ends of the elf's body and smashed his knees hard. Click. Phew. The elf's body was instantly split in half by Alistar, and blood spurted out. Ah! The elf screamed in terror. The companion who was still alive 1 second was torn in half by the minotaur the next. Alistar threw the body that was broken in half casually aside and said with a fierce look, "Kill them." Ah! Miserable screams echoed in the forest. The land was dyed red with blood, and the elves' bodies were divided into pieces by the monsters. Ahead, Elenia seemed to hear a miserable cry coming from the forest behind her. Deceive the elves and let them know the dangers of the dragon, and get 100 evil points. Closing square bracket. What's wrong, Elenia? After receiving the information from the system, Caesar knew that the monsters did not disappoint him. From the beginning, he had no intention of letting these elves go. Monsters who know themselves well will definitely catch up with them the moment they leave. Nothing, I seem to have heard wrongly. Elenia shook her head. She didn't pay much attention. The wind in my ears was so loud that it was normal for me to mishear. Elenia, I will help you get revenge, should you also do something for me? Caesar suddenly asked. Can I help you, Mr. Nishizawa? Of course there is no problem. What do you need from me? Elenia agreed without thinking. The kind elf didn't think too much, he just thought that if you helped me, I would naturally help you. This is mutual help. What Elenia is a little curious about is, will such a powerful red dragon ever need her help? I really don't know how I can help Caesar. It's not necessary for now. I'll wait until I help you deal with your enemy. With Elenia's guarantee, Caesar knew that the next step could be carried out. Carolina flew beside him, telling her intuitively that the master of the red dragon definitely had no good intentions. This elf named Elenia might be in trouble. Soon. Under Elenia's guidance, Caesar and Carolina flew in the sky for less than half an hour before arriving at the elven tribe she mentioned. How is the situation, Mr. Nishizawa? Elenia asked nervously. High in the sky, the elf's field of vision was not enough for her to see clearly what was happening below. Only the dragon's super giant sight can see it clearly. If that ruin is your tribe, it's going to be bad. Long Tom could clearly see the situation in the tribe below. The tribe where elves live is built around a towering tree. The big tree that the elves depended on had many branches cut off. The surrounding tree houses were even destroyed into ruins, with flames burning and plumes of black smoke rising. A group of orcs are still in the elven tribe, searching for survivors. The ground was littered with the broken limbs of elves and some orcs. It seems that the counterattack of this elven tribe still caused a lot of damage to the orcs, with a similar proportion of casualties. If the orcs hadn't relied on their large numbers, they might not have been able to defeat this elven tribe. These bodies have not rotted yet. Carolina's mind is filled with food. She didn't dislike the corpses of these elves. As long as you can eat it. Caesar glanced at Carolina. He saw through the white dragon's thoughts and estimated that she had already planned to eat the corpse. Mr. Nishizawa, can we go down? Elenia asked. No problem, I'll go down first, Carolina, and pick up Miss Elenia. Caesar directly threw the Elenia in his hand to Carolina. Carolina lost weight instantly at high altitude and subconsciously screamed. Carolina panicked and stretched out her paw, barely catching Elenia. She breathed a sigh of relief. I almost missed the catch. Just now, her thoughts were on those elves' corpses. Long Tom scanned the bottom and determined that there were no surviving elves. Shizawa folded his wings and fell without warning. Master, Mr. Nishizawa, Carolina and Elenia subconsciously exclaimed. Then he just watched Caesar fall like a crimson meteor. Mr. Nishizawa, he fell. Elenia covered her mouth in surprise. There is nothing wrong with this guy's mind, Carolina said with a shocked look on her face. If it hits from a height of 1,000 meters, even a giant dragon will be seriously injured. You must know that the dragon itself is very heavy, coupled with the high impact. If it is hit like this, even an adult dragon will be confused. What's more, Nishizawa is just a young red dragon. If you keep smashing it like this, there is a high chance that something will happen. Wait a moment, something happened to Caesar, which was a good thing for her. After Caesar died, the master-servant contract automatically lost its effect. Wouldn't she be free? Carolina had a smile on her face for a moment. Noticing the smile on Carolina's face, Elenia was even more confused. Is the relationship between the two giant dragons bad? Mr. Nishizawa is about to be born, and Bai is still here making a sneak attack. Below, phew, the dragon wings were put away and stuck tightly to his body. The crimson dragon scales rubbed against the air, emitting bursts of sonic booms. The resulting fire dragged a long red tail flame, falling toward the ground like a red meteor. The strange noise coming from the sky immediately attracted the attention of the orcs. They looked up curiously one by one, only to see a huge flaming meteor about to crash down. Quick, run, boom. The orc reacted and was about to turn around and run. It's too late. The crimson meteor hit the earth heavily, the huge roar drowned out the sounds of the world, and the earth shattered. The surging and strong fluctuations swept across with lightning speed, and the dust and sand spread in all directions. Dozens of diamond thorns that are more than 3 meters long are inserted all around, like thorns growing wildly on the earth, reflecting the cold light. Under the blow of this comet, no orcs in this village tribe were spared. Nishizawa stood in a huge pit. The rocks around the pit were baked into lava by the high temperature, exuding scorching heat. No one left alive. The instigator of evil flew out of the pit filled with lava. Caesar shook the sand on his body and looked around. Not to mention the orcs, even the wooden houses built by the elves collapsed completely under the shock wave. Corpses were everywhere, from orcs and elves. They were all scattered around, like a mass grave. What is your body made of? It's so hard. Immediately afterwards, Carolina fell beside Caesar in stunned silence, with the same expression of disbelief on Ilenia in her hand. They could clearly see the power just now. It's really scary. The most important thing is that there is no scar on Caesar's body now. I have something harder, do you want to try it? Caesar joked. Harder? What? Carolina asked curiously. You'll find out later. Caesar smiled and said nothing. If it weren't for the fact that Carolina was too young, he would have taken action long ago. When Carolina officially enters adolescence, it's time for him to take action. I'm already your servant, why are you so mysterious? Carolina rolled her eyes. I am already Caesar's servant, why is there any need to hide this from myself? You can't tell yourself. Nothing left. Ilenia stared blankly at the nothingness in front of her. If there weren't many broken limbs and broken arms on the ground, she would have doubted whether this was the elven tribe of the past. I'm sorry, Ilenia, in order to avenge you as soon as possible, I didn't hold back my strength, and it ended up like this accidentally. Caesar said this on the surface, but deep down he felt extremely happy. He did it on purpose. When he was in Melee Town before, he found that he fell in love with this skill. So, taking advantage of the opportunity today, I use the Fearless Strike again. It's so cool. With the dog talisman around, there is no need to worry about physical injury. No. It doesn't matter, Mr. Nishizawa, anyway, the tribe has been destroyed by the orcs long ago. It's okay, let these orcs use their own blood and flesh to repent to the Ilenia tribe. Quote. Ilenia stepped off Carolina's paw. She clasped her hands together, and the prayer in her mouth came out from her red lips. She was sending away the souls of her companions, hoping that the pure souls of her companions could be led to the kingdom of God by the goddess of nature. Is there an orc kingdom nearby? The dragon's eyes, which are extremely good at discovering treasures, were looking around. Caesar was sure that there wasn't even a single valuable thing in this place. Elves and orcs are poor people. Humans are still rich. If I had known that when I invaded Melee Town, I would have taken more treasures by the way. I don't know. Our Ilenia tribe has always lived here and doesn't know much about the outside world. Ilenia shook her head. Since the establishment of the tribe, they have lived here and never left this forest. The brothers and sisters who had followed the human bard never came back after leaving the tribe. I don't know if he is tired of the single life of the elven tribe, or he has encountered misfortune. Ilenia tribe. Your name is Ilenia. Caesar noticed this. Well, Mr. Caesar, Ilenia is the name of the queen of our tribe. Every successor of the queen will change this name. And I am the previous queen, my mother, the next queen who was temporarily decided, and I will naturally inherit the name Lien. Ilenia explained. This is the custom of elves. That's it, Nishizawa said. Carolina on the side was a little impatient and stepped forward, wanting to pick up a few elf corpses to taste. Although it was all turned into meat residue by Caesar's impact, the taste of the elf was very unique. With her sensitive nose, Carolina could easily identify whether the piece of meat was from the elf. Mr. Nishizawa, I wonder what you want me to help with. Ilenia wanted to stop Carolina, but was unable to do so. I could only turn around and pretend I didn't see him. She happened to ask Mr. Nishizawa what help she needed from her. After helping Mr. Nishizawa, she planned to commit suicide and follow the souls of her tribe to ascend to the kingdom of God. Anything can be done. Of course. Please believe in my determination, Dr. Nishizawa. Really, actually what I want to say is that I am very angry and I need your help to calm it down. I wonder if you can do it. Very angry. What do you mean? Ilenia couldn't understand what Caesar meant. It wasn't until she followed Ziza's gaze that she subconsciously covered her mouth. Go in. You can't go in. No matter how hard you try, you can't get in. Her white jade hands covered her red lips. Ilenia's eyes widened and she subconsciously took a step back. She had thought about what kind of help Caesar would ask her to do, but she had never thought that this was what Caesar wanted her to do. No, Mr. Nishizawa, I can't do this. Ilenia rejected Caesar's request. He is an elf and a believer in the goddess of nature. She is still the next queen of the tribe. Although the tribe is gone, the name of Ilenia has been passed on to her. As the elf queen, she must maintain the absolute purity of her body. Although the previous elf queen was Ilenia's mother, in fact she was not Ilenia's biological mother, it was an adoption relationship. Are you rejecting me? The elf who kept his promise used a red dragon to complete his revenge, but he broke his promise to the red dragon. Ilenia, you are not even as good as a drow. Caesar's eyes were filled with disappointment as he looked at Ilenia. He started acting as a dragon. No, Mr. Nishizawa, I did promise you that I would provide you with help after revenge, but I didn't expect this kind of help. Ilenia explained hurriedly. Drow are dark elves, betrayers of the goddess of nature. She would never allow herself to be compared with drow. This is an insult to the goddess of nature. Oh, you mean, if you knew it was this help, you wouldn't choose to help me, is that right? Caesar said. In short, Mr. Nishizawa, please change. I can help you with anything except this matter. Ilenia clenched her teeth and said nothing. Apart from this matter, she really couldn't provide help to Caesar. Everything else is negotiable. Anything. But apart from your body, what help can you provide me? Ilenia, is it possible that you want to lead me to convert my faith to the goddess of nature? Caesar couldn't help but taunted. Ilenia had nothing to say. It seems that the only help she can provide to the red dragon is her own body. Except for her own body, her weak strength really couldn't help Caesar with anything. It's really interesting. Then you can die, Ilenia. Caesar said coldly. Ordinary people would be frightened when they heard the words of red dragon. But Ilenia was different. When she heard Caesar's words, her beautiful face showed joy. Thank you, Mr. Caesar. Death is the best ending for her. Just when Ilenia was preparing to face the killing of the evil dragon, Caesar suddenly said, I remember the name Ilenia. In the future, I will tell every creature I meet and tell them that Ilenia is an elf that is not even as good as the drow. No, you can't do this. Ilenia's eyes, which had been closed with peace of mind, suddenly opened, and panic appeared in her beautiful eyes. Ilenia, this is not only her own name, but also the name of her tribe and past queens. Meaning, the pure and blooming flower of the moon. It is a symbol of beauty. If Caesar spreads the word like this, the name Ilenia will be ruined. How could something that successive queens had fought so hard to protect be tarnished because of themselves? I can't do this. Ilenia, as an elf you can betray your promise, but as a red dragon, why can't I do this? Besides, I'm just stating a fact. Besides, you are going to die soon. Isn't it great that you won't see the day when Ilenia's name is tarnished by die? Caesar said calmly. The dark red dragon raised his claws, and the sharp claws emitted a cold light. He was ready to deprive Ilenia of her life. Feeling the breath of death, Ilenia was no longer as calm as before, her thoughts became panicked, and she kept retreating in fear. Ilenia is not afraid of death. She was afraid that after her death, Ilenia's name would be smeared by this red dragon. By then, all creatures on the continent will know that Ilenia represents broken promises and broken promises. This is not what Ilenia wants to see. Are you afraid of dying? Caesar stepped closer and forced Ilenia into a corner. leaving Elenia with no way out. Elenia, who was forced to stop by the dead end, gradually calmed down. She seemed to understand why the red dragon chose to help her so kindly. Elenia was not stupid and quickly figured out all this. This is all the red dragon's trap. You are despicable, evil dragon, I misjudged you from the beginning. Elenia scolded Caesar angrily. I'm despicable, Elenia, let's make it clear. Who prayed for my power in the first place to help her companions get revenge? Caesar said amusedly. If Elenia had not been tempted by her own power at the beginning, would she have ended up in this situation? Obviously, absolutely not. The problem is that Elenia did not resist the temptation, which led her to step into Caesar's trap. It's me. Elenia was stunned for a moment, then lowered her head. Yes, in the beginning, he was so blinded by hatred that he longed for the power of a red dragon to avenge his tribe. From beginning to end, it was her own choice. Elenia, who told me to be so kind. I am willing to give you another chance to help me eliminate the anger, and the relationship between us will be wiped out. The red dragon's claws gently lifted the elf girl's chin. The hot breath hit the elf girl's face, causing her to fall into deep thought. Subsequently, Elenia's eyes were full of tears, and she closed her eyes in despair. Crystal clear tears suddenly fell from her eyes down her white jade face. Is it true that as long as I do this, the relationship between us will be completely over? Elenia said with a trembling voice. Of course, as we all know, I, Caesar Fafnir, keep my promises the most. Look, I promised to help you get revenge. Didn't I keep my word? The corners of Caesar's mouth raised slightly. He knew that Elenia's psychological defense had been broken. I am a serious dragon, I never force others to do anything, I only do it if others want to. I understand. Where to go? Elenia adjusted her breathing, wiped her tears with her jade hands, and pretended to be calm. But the rising and falling peaks on her chest showed how nervous she was at the moment. In fact, even Elenia herself only has a partial understanding of that kind of thing. Right here, quote ? You, that white dragon is still there. Caesar's words shocked Elenia. She didn't expect the red dragon to be so malicious. Shouldn't this kind of thing be hidden in a hidden corner? Don't worry, she can't see us. The deep red vertical pupils outline the shape of a snake. The other side, Carolina's pure white dragon scales were stained with a lot of blood. When she came to her senses, she realized that Caesar and Elenia had already disappeared. Carolina tilted her head in confusion. The aura is obviously still around here. Why can't I see the figure of my master and energy? The snake charm can hide the body, but unfortunately it cannot hide the breath. With the dragon's keen sense of smell, Carolina was able to determine that Caesar and Elenia were definitely nearby. It should just be invisible. Carolina didn't know what Caesar and Elenia were doing, but she always felt that there was a different smell mixed in the air. What a strange smell. I always feel that the smell is a bit familiar, as if it has something recorded in the dragon's legacy. After thinking about it for a long time, Carolina was once again attracted to the corpse on the ground. Forget it. If you want to do so much, you should fill your stomach first. Just make sure Nishizawa is still around. But it would be even better if Caesar leaves, which means that Caesar doesn't want herself, and she can be free. It lasted a long time. Until the sun sets and night falls. Forcing Elenia the elf to sacrifice her purity and gain 1000 evil points. Closing square bracket. Despicable red dragon. Elenia's legs trembled greatly, and she sat on the ground weakly. Her thin lips became red and swollen. The neat golden hair became messy. It seems that he has experienced some kind of torture. The beautiful golden flowers were ruthlessly destroyed by the giant dragon, causing the flowers to lose some of their color. But in Shizawa's eyes, these things felt even more beautiful. You're not bad either, Miss Elenia. You were much more enthusiastic just now than you are now. Nishizawa teased. At first, Elenia was full of unwillingness and anger. Unexpectedly, she became more and more excited as she got to the back, as if a switch in her body was turned on, which made Elenia basically take the initiative behind her. Caesar just watched her performance quietly. Kill me, red dragon. Elenia's face turned red when she remembered what had just happened, but then she shook her head. After experiencing what I just experienced, this life is not in vain. Even if her soul cannot ascend to the kingdom of God, as long as she can keep Elenia's reputation, she is willing to do so without any regrets. No, I changed my mind, Elenia, I decided to let you stay by my side and serve me well. Fickleness is the quality that an evil dragon should have. What, evil dragon, do you want to betray our agreement? Elenia said in disbelief. I said before, I, Caesar Fafnir, keep my promises the most and will never betray the agreement between us. Caesar shook his head. Ha, you are pretty good, evil dragon. Since you are not willing to kill me, then I will die myself. After Elenia finished speaking, she planned to kill herself. Unexpectedly, the next second, Caesar took out a black object from the system space. The bright screen and the voice coming from it made Elenia feel extremely familiar. This seemed to be my own voice just now. Want to take a look? I promise you won't be disappointed. Caesar mysteriously handed the thing to Elenia. Elenia, who originally wanted to commit suicide, took the black thing out of curiosity. On the screen, what happened in front of her was slowly unfolding. Isn't this what I and the evil dragon looked like just now? Elenia, you don't want this video to be seen by other elves, right? Impossible, snapped. Elenia subconsciously dropped the video recorder to the ground. The video recorder shattered under her force, sputtering out a lot of debris. Just when she thought the video was about to disappear, something happened that made her extremely desperate. I saw Caesar taking out a black video recorder from nowhere, exactly the same as the one he smashed before. What the hell is this? Elenia, who had never seen high technology, asked through gritted teeth. She originally thought that only she and Nishizawa knew what happened. Who would have thought that Caesar recorded all of this? This thing is called a video recorder. It records a beautiful life. What do you think? When Caesar put away the video recorder in his hand, he also took away the broken video recorder on the ground. It had long been known that Elenia had suicidal thoughts. In order to prevent her from committing suicide, Caesar quietly took out the video recorder when Elenia entered the state. Ultra Clear Video. A technological product from 2060, which can float silently in the air and follow the human body to change angles. A must-have camera for travel to record your wonderful life. Note, easily damaged. Shishi has produced 100 sets of ultra-high-definition videos like this. A good life. Despicable evil dragon, you call what you just experienced a good life? Elenia said angrily. Isn't it? I saw that, Elenia. You were also very happy just now. Speaking of which, I am still at a disadvantage because I am younger than you. It has been less than a year since Nishizawa was born. Elenia is already 110 years old. Elves have a lifespan of 700 years and do not reach adulthood until they are 110 years old. Elenia has just reached adulthood. Speaking of which, is this a big cart with a small horse? It's just that Caesar's horse is a little bigger, but he's still young. You, shameless. Elenia didn't know whether she was shy or angry. She clenched her silver teeth and her face turned crimson. The good image of Caesar in her mind suddenly collapsed. Sure enough, none of the 5 color dragons are good. I am too naive. Thank you for the compliment, Elenia. Caesar didn't care. I even thought it was a compliment to myself. Facing such a shameless evil dragon, Elenia was so angry that her body trembled, and she wanted to commit suicide. But the threat in front of the evil dragon echoed in his mind like a devil's whisper. Once she chose suicide, the absurd and depraved scene between Elenia and Caesar will be watched by his own people. When the time comes, it will definitely be more uncomfortable than death. Not only did he lose the name Elenia, he even lost the face of the entire elves. It will make the entire elves unable to hold their head high in front of other creatures. As for the evil dragon Caesar, what does he care about reputation? An evil dragon like this wants to be notorious so that it can attract other stinking monsters to join him. Have you thought about it? Elenia, do you plan to continue to follow me, or do you want to end your life immediately? Looking at Elenia's expression, Caesar knew that the other party couldn't run away. Some creatures just value their own face too much. Don't look at Caesar's method of threatening Lilia and Elenia. That's because of their personalities. If it were a chaotic evil creature, they wouldn't care at all. Then you have to change your approach. You are so despicable and shameless. Elenia vented all the curse words she could think of in her life on Caesar. Caesar still didn't care about this. Master, Are you invisible? At this time, Carolina ran over with a full stomach. After eating for almost a whole day, she was about to die of happiness. I have never tasted such beautiful food. I can't finish it. Well, Carolina, get ready to go back. Caesar looked at Elenia playfully. Elenia hummed softly, tremblingly covering her lower abdomen, and moved a little bit to sit on Caesar's paw. The dragon's impact was still too much for her. As a result, her body almost fell apart. If it weren't for a magical power nourishing her body every time she was about to faint, Elenia would have been unable to hold on any longer. The physiques of dragons and elves are quite different. Forest monsters like Alistar, Cled, and Obi waited quietly and obediently. No matter how hungry they are, they will not leave even half a minute without the master's order. Otherwise, if the master comes back later, the monsters who go hunting will leave the team. The master will not stop his progress just for some monsters. Soon, the noise coming from the sky made the monsters raise their heads one after another. Their familiar master is back. The master is back. The great master has come. Stand up, you idiot. Welcome, master. The monsters hurriedly climbed up from the ground and straightened their backs, as if they were well trained. Who doesn't want to look good in front of a leader? Maybe if the master is happy, he will reward himself with a dragon transformation ceremony. The dark red shimmer on the red dragon's body illuminates the dark forest, like the sun in the dark night, which is eye-catching. Compared with Caesar, Carolina is relatively unremarkable. Elenia, don't think about dying, otherwise you know what I will do. Caesar warned Elenia and used his horse charm to heal Elenia's injuries. Feeling that familiar power, Elenia raised her head and looked at Caesar in disbelief. It turns out that the power he had before was given to him by the evil dragon. Dragon. 4. For my own happiness, I have been constantly treating my body. Although she is also very happy. Of course I know, dragon. Elenia stepped off Caesar's paw. The eyes looking at Nishizawa were filled with hatred. Caesar liked this feeling, especially when Elenia had the same unwillingness and resentment in her eyes during that incident, which made him feel extremely happy. After reminding Elenia, Caesar arranged for the monsters to hunt on the spot. Whether they can survive tonight with a full stomach depends entirely on the monsters themselves. If you don't have the ability, just starve all night, but you won't die of hunger anyway. After Nishizawa spoke, the monsters ran out in a hurry, looking for their dinner tonight. Carolina had already filled her stomach. Seeing that her master Caesar did not give her any new orders, she lay down on the side, curled up her tail and started to rest. Caesar restrained the red light emanating from his body and came to the open space beside him alone, his claws rubbing together causing sparks. Everything is ready, 10th company. Let's start. Caesar thought to himself. The evil points for 10 consecutive draws have already been collected. Now that he is finally free, Caesar plans to give him a hard whip. In order to add a wave of European energy, Caesar also took out the transparent fat box to remove the bad luck on his body. In an instant, Caesar once again found himself in the dreamy starry sky, with colorful and brilliant meteors flashing overhead. Eventually, 10 colorful lights fell from the sky. Congratulations to the host for winning the blue item, Breath of the Old. Closing square bracket. Congratulations to the host for winning a green item, a set of indestructible black silk attack speed bonus. Closing square bracket. Congratulations to the host for winning the green item, 100 big thief dragons incomparably loyal. Closing square bracket. Congratulations to the host for winning. Congratulations to the host for winning the golden item, Arrogance, I am the sun. Closing square bracket. Withdrawal of funds. Caesar was ecstatic. Withdrawing money 3 times in a row is much more exciting than a game that requires a big guarantee every time. Wow, the explosion rate is really high. Arrogance. You will be able to change as the sun rises. The closer you get to noon, the stronger your strength will be. You will enter a state of supremacy in the sky and the world, and increase based on yourself. Note, there are no side effects of any loss. Point 0. It turns out to be Escanor's ability. After reading the introduction of this talent, Caesar immediately understood where this power came from. Having gained the power of the sun, at that minute at noon, I directly replaced the sun and entered the state where I am the sun. Of course, as the sun sets, the strength will slowly weaken. Fortunately, Nishizawa does not have this side effect. No matter how he declines, he will eventually return to his original strength and will not become a powerless white dragon. By the way, there are also 100 big thief dragons. Caesar looked at the 100 giant thief dragons. I recall the dragons I hunted when I first entered the New World. The scene of wielding a clumsy two-handed sword is still vivid in my mind. I didn't expect to draw this big thief dragon today. The great thieving dragon is not very strong, almost all of its body is full of flaws. Fortunately, there are many of them, 100. Moreover, there is no great thief dragon in this world. Enemies who do not understand the great thief dragon have no experience in facing this kind of dragon and can catch the opponent off guard. It just so happened that the monsters had no mounts, so the big thief dragon was used as their mounts. With absolute loyalty, Caesar doesn't have to worry about the big thief dragon swallowing the monster. Alista, I'm here, master. Upon hearing Caesar's call, Alistar quickly ran to Caesar's side. Next, I have to summon and tell the monsters the news so that they won't be too surprised. Caesar reminded. He was worried that the big thief dragon he had just summoned would be attacked by these monsters. Especially the Tauren, the big thief dragon can't withstand the Tauren's iron hoof. Yes, Alistar immediately spread the news. Not all monsters go out to hunt. Monsters with high status only need to wait for their companions to bring back the prey and enjoy it. Seeing Alistar ordering him to go down, Caesar had a thought in his mind. 100 light yellow dragon-like creatures appeared on the ground out of thin air. Ouch! The big thief dragons shook their heads, and the thorns on the sides of their heads swayed accordingly. The yellow eyes looked at the master who summoned him, Shizuyu. The appearance of the big thief dragon immediately attracted the attention of the monsters present. Is this the creature summoned by the master? Big lizard. It's such a big monster, but it doesn't seem like it has any intelligence. What a weak guy, I feel like I can crush it with just one iron hoof. The lizard men and goblins were exclaiming, while the head-born man took one look at it and thought it was meaningless. After all, the great thief dragon is just a monster at the bottom of the ecological chain of the New World. There are many creatures more powerful than it. Cled, Obi. Caesar shouted. After hearing what was said, Cled and Obi hurried over. These 100 big thief dragons are left to you. Give them to powerful warriors and train them into qualified mounts. Do you understand? This is the mission given by Caesar to Cled and Obi. The great thief dragon is not a mount, so if you want to become a qualified mount, you still need some tricks from the monsters. Big thief dragon. Obi and Cled looked at each other. This fat, lizard-like monster still has the head of a dragon. It's actually possible to have a relationship with a dragon. In this continent, races that can be related to dragons, even dragon beasts, are relatively powerful. But for the big thief dragon in front of him, to put it bluntly, Cled was confident that he could take down a few of them. Don't underestimate them. Nishizawa turned over 483 and read his other reward, Breath of the Sun. Well, something from Demon Slayer Sakai. It barely improved him at all. Maybe this thing was very powerful in that world, but it seemed dispensable to him. Things that can strengthen the body are useless to the dragon. This is equivalent to if you, an adult, do radio gymnastics every day, what effect will it have? Might as well practice fighting for a day. However, it seems to have some effect on the monsters, and it can improve their physique to some extent. Ever since, Nishizawa simply read through Breath of the Sun and learned it easily. When you have time, teach the monsters the Breath of the Sun. Ouch! What a ferocious dragon beast! Bang! At this moment, a lizard man warrior who tried to tame the big thief dragon was thrown away by the big thief dragon. The fact that the big thief dragon is full of loyalty to Nishizawa does not mean that they will follow the monsters' tricks. If the monsters want to conquer the big thief dragon as a mount, it will take some time to tame it. In particular, you have to put a saddle on the back of the big thief dragon, otherwise your butt will be rotten if you sit on it and ride it. I didn't pay much attention to the taming of monsters. Caesar turned and walked towards Ilenia. Tonight is still very long. He was going to try out the black silk attack speed suit to see how much attack speed it could increase. Wait a minute, I haven't eaten yet. Seeing Caesar coming, Ilenia guessed the purpose of Caesar's visit without even thinking about it. She hurriedly expressed that she was hungry. After an afternoon of consumption, my stomach was already full of acne. She urgently needs food to fill her stomach and restore some energy to her. It's okay, I have something delicious here. Caesar grinned. What's delicious? As soon as she heard about the delicious food, Caroline woke up from her sleep. It's none of your business, just go back to sleep and I'll feed you when you reach adolescence. Caesar said angrily. Oh, Carolina lay down glumly. Really, if you have something to eat, you won't give it to yourself. You have to grow up before you can eat it. Do you really think you are rare? Well, a little bit, only a little bit. Seeing Caesar driving Carolina away, Elena looked at Caesar with disgust. Caesar took out a lollipop from the system space. Want to eat it? Elena didn't say anything, and stared at Caesar with angry eyes. All without too many words. Caesar and Elena entered the invisible state again. Carolina on the other side opened her eyes secretly when she heard the movement, wondering what good food Caesar had prepared for Elena. Unexpectedly, when I opened my eyes, I saw an empty scene. Smelling the familiar scent in her nose, Carolina still didn't understand that Caesar must have entered invisibility. Hateful. In order not to give yourself a late-night snack, do you still have to hide it secretly? Such a master is really disgusting. It's better for Lena. No matter what she ate before, she would never hide from her. If there is anything delicious, the first thing that comes to mind is her. I wonder if there will be a way to resurrect Lena in the future. In this magical continent, the means to resurrect a person exists, but the conditions are a bit difficult. But Carolina is still confident in this, she is a giant dragon. Even if there is no way now, there will definitely be a way in the future. What's more, he also has a master, Zeiss. Although this red dragon is very mean to him, it has to be said that Nishizawa is very strong and has many mysterious props. Invisible. Caesar handed the attack speed suit he drew to Elena. You despicable and shameless evil dragon. One day, I will kill you. I'm waiting for your revenge, Elena. The next day. The sunlight on the horizon brightened slightly. Caesar woke up immediately because he could clearly feel the power in his body taking over little by little. Name: Caesar Fafner Leyden Nidhogg. Race: world-destroying Crimson Dragon. Faction: Chaotic Evil. Life: 2000. Strength: 155. Defense: 245. Equipment: Goddess Transparent Fatty. Magic value: 2000. Ability: Fire Breath, Bite, Fire Damage Immunity, 12 Talismans, Magical Craftsmanship, Arrogance. Magic: Fire Elemental Summoning. Evil points: 1700. The data on Caesar's body has changed, and all attributes, including magic value, are improving little by little. As time went by, he could even feel the muscles in his body slowly expanding. He seems to be getting a little bigger. Caesar woke up completely, stood up and pinched his paws. The change in strength is the most obvious. Although the speed of improvement is very slow, it is especially obvious for power-sensitive dragons. This is also the reason why Caesar wakes up immediately when his strength is rising. In order to prevent other monsters from being too surprised by their changes, Caesar just let his data change, using his transformation technique and monkey charm to keep his body shape unchanged. If you want to change, you won't change at this time. Think about it, how shocking it will be when you fight the enemy and transform into a figure that is no less than an adult dragon. And this is based on one's own strength. If he waits until he reaches adulthood, coupled with his arrogant talent, his figure, even the size of an ancient dragon, will never be comparable to his own. He will become a dragon god walking on earth. Elena was awakened by Caesar's movements. Immediately afterwards, the monsters wake up one after another. After a night of training, the two monster leaders, Kled and Obi, successfully tamed their respective thief dragons and made the thief dragons their mounts. Tauren Alistar and his minotaurs are not needed. 0. After all, the Tauren are very big. When they sit on them, the giant thief dragon will be crushed. They can barely resist the giant thief dragon. Especially Alistar, with his 5-meter-tall figure, both feet would touch the ground when sitting on the big thief dragon. After breakfast, we'll leave as soon as possible. Caesar said. Yes. The monsters began to replenish their physical strength non-stop. Cled also brought a piece of grilled steak and handed it to Elenia, the elf. Give me. Elenia was surprised. He didn't expect the monster to hand him food at all. Well, you are the master's companion and our mistress. Cled said, just like Miss Lilia last time. Don't look at how miserably Lilia was played by Caesar at first. But her status in the Red Dragon clan is high. It's not my turn to be bullied by monsters. The rule of respecting strength does not seem to cover mistresses. Mistress, I am not your mistress. Remember, this evil dragon is my enemy. If you don't kill me now, you will wait for me to kill him in the future. Elenia did not have the courage to commit suicide. He tried to provoke Cled into killing himself. When Cled faced Elenia's words, he shrugged indifferently, put the food on a leaf, and turned around and left. I still remember that the same was true for Mistress Lilia before. As a result, in the end, he was still not tamed and submissive by his master. Finish breakfast. With the addition of the big thief dragon, the monsters moved forward much faster. Some monsters without mounts, with the help of their companions, sat on the back of the big thief dragon. There was no saddle for the time being, so the monsters used animal skins to pad their buttocks to prevent their buttocks from being damaged by the big thief dragon. Caesar would also like to thank the human soldiers for this. There are no human soldiers to kill so many monsters. Even if there are 3 people sitting on the back of a big thief dragon, there may not be enough space for them. Ha ha ha, it feels so good. Is this what it feels like to have a mount? Woohoo, long live the master. Faster. The monsters were extremely excited. This is much more enjoyable than running on your own feet. The monsters sincerely praised their master Nishizawa. Ring ring ring. Just when Caesar was flying with Elenia in sky, a bell rang. Real-time communicator. No matter what world you come to, even if there is no signal, you can still contact the other party. This item can be bundled in the soul and communicate with consciousness. This is the communication equipment that Nishizawa extracted, and it is very good. No matter how far away you are, you can receive the other party's information, and you can also use the consciousness link to answer the other party without dictation. The only bad thing is that Caesar only got this one. I took one and gave the other to Lilia. What's wrong, my dear Lilia? Caesar asked gently. Now, Lilia, who was far away in the human Avicen Empire, heard a familiar voice, and her nervous heart immediately calmed down a lot. She paid attention to the movement around her, took a deep breath, and answered with her own consciousness. Master, something is wrong. Lord Saintess wants to personally check whether I have been in contact with the power of God. Lilia said anxiously. After using the power of God, the breath of God will naturally remain. But she is a fake, and the magical power she uses is just a trick to deceive people by joining forces with her master. This method will definitely be exposed by Lord Saintess. By then her situation would be dire. It doesn't matter if he is discovered. What does matter is that it will affect the master's plan. Don't be anxious, Lilia, relax and do as I say. Okay. Lilia calmed down her nervous heart, patiently waiting for the master Nishizawa's solution. Let me ask you something first, Lilia, is the magic of Saintess real? Caesar asked. It should be, it's true, the Pope can testify. Lilia didn't know this, but the Pope and Lord Saintess are both people with magical powers. Let me ask you, has the so-called goddess of glory not performed any miracles for hundreds of years? Lilia, have you ever doubted one thing, that is, the magic of Saintess and the Pope is fake? Fake. Avicen Empire. Bishop of the Glorious Church. In the end, the Church of Glory did not know what kind of benefits it had given the royal family, and the king was willing to give Lilia to the church. So with the help of the Archbishop, Lilia was brought to the religion of the Church of Glory, which was the capital of the Avicen Empire. Miss Lilia, Lord Saintess and Lord Pope are waiting for you in the temple. Just after finishing the call, Lilia heard the knight's voice outside. Because Lilia's use of divine power to drive away the evil dragon was witnessed by many people. Therefore, in order to protect Lilia, the Church of Radiance sent one of the church's most powerful 4 knights to protect Lilia. I see. Lilia took a deep breath and remembered her master Zeisa's instructions. He stepped forward and opened the door. Open the door. A woman wearing knight armor stood outside the door. The female armor wraps her body, exquisite and graceful. Her light golden hair is slightly curly, and her delicate face has a hint of perseverance. She is one of the 4 knights who protect Lilia. She symbolizes the peace of the goddess of glory and is known as the Knight of Peace. Her real name is Belinda Galdo. Come on, Belinda Knight. Lilia was ready. Belinda couldn't help but take another look at Lilia. Miss Lilia's temperament seems to have changed a bit, and it is obvious that Miss Lilia has a sense of confidence. Much better than Lilia, who seemed gentle and weak before. Confident people will look better when they smile. Temple. In the center of the glorious and dignified temple, stands a statue of the goddess. The goddess stood above the clouds, with her hands folded on her chest. Her blurred facial features seemed to be covered with a veil, making it difficult to see her facial features clearly. This was done on purpose. In the eyes of the Church of Glory, the goddess of glory is the most beautiful in the world, and it is impossible for any craftsman to carve out the beauty of the goddess. So when carving the facial features of the goddess statue, they were deliberately blurred, and some magic was added in order not to appear too abrupt. Lord Saintess, Lord Pope, and Miss Lilia have been brought. Well done, Peace Knight, you can leave now. Lilia watched Belinda leave the temple and looked at the 2 people on the stairs. Saintess was wearing a pure white dress, with a piece of white cloth falling from her head, covering her stunning face. Only her charming red lips and smooth chin were exposed. But the long skirt could not hide her voluptuous figure. Her slender thighs were elegantly closed, and her hands covered with white gauze were folded and placed on her soft thighs. She just sat motionless on the main seat. The bright sunshine falls from the window behind her and hits the pure white saintess, making her seem like a goddess descending to earth, which makes people respect her and not dare to have any blasphemy. The Pope standing next to Saintess was a middle-aged man with a majestic face, wearing a red cassock. The papal scepter in his hand symbolizes the supreme status of the church. The ruby inlaid on the scepter is said to be polished from the bones of a red dragon. Carrying it around can protect the user from the cold and keep the body warm all year round. His calm eyes fell on Lilia, as if he wanted to see through the secret of Lilia. Lilia, who had been trained by Nishizawa, faced this look and looked at it confidently. The calm look made the Pope narrow his eyes. Long time no see, Lilia, my child, how have you been these days? Saintess spoke. Her voice is very nice, like an oriole coming out of the valley, smooth, with fresh timbre, delicate and soft. I'm fine, Lady Saintess. Lilia nodded. Saintess is the representative of the goddess in the human world. From birth to death, the body must remain absolutely pure. The reason why Lilia is called a child is because God loves the world, and the goddess of radiance regards all creatures in the world as her children. Saintess, as the human representative of the goddess, naturally calls her students her children. At the same time, it can also make up for the regret of not being able to be a mother. Saintess, who had been simply reserved with Lilia for a while, stopped talking, and the Pope next to him understood. Miss Lilia, I heard that you were granted a miracle by the goddess, received the goddess's blessing, and gained the power to expel evil dragons. Is it true? The Pope got straight to the point and got to the point. That was the real reason they met Lilia. It's absolutely true, Lord Pope, I can swear to the great goddess of radiance that everything I say and do is true, without any falsehood. After the fall, Lilia's faith in the goddess of radiance had already collapsed. Small things like swearing to the goddess of glory are easy for her now. After hearing Lilia's words, the Pope showed joy. Lilia is a student of Saintess. Her belief in the goddess of radiance is unquestionable and she is definitely one of the most loyal ones in the church. Now she dares to swear to the goddess of glory, saying that what she said should be true. Moreover, there were so many people in Meili town at that time, thousands of people saw Lilia using the glorious power of the goddess to drive away the evil red dragon. Lilia can deceive one pair of eyes, but it is impossible to deceive thousands of eyes. What's more, how can the sinful red dragon cooperate with Lilia in acting? Lilia doesn't have this ability. Lilia, come forward and let me take a good look at you, child. Saintess smelled orchid and waved to Lilia softly. Lilia knew in her heart that this was Saintess trying to detect whether there was any radiant aura in her body. Only in this way can the authenticity of the miracles of the glory goddess be verified. With the words of her master Nishizawa in her mind, Lilia calmly walked up the steps step by step, and finally came to Saintess. As soon as she approached Saintess, Lilia smelled the faint fragrance, which was refreshing. Lady Saintess is like a mature flower, so beautiful and sweet that people can't help but want to get close to her. The white and slender palms grasped Lilia's little hand, and a faint golden light emerged from Master Saintess's body, moving towards Lilia's body little by little. Lilia, after the incident in Meili Town, can you still use the glorious power given to you by the goddess? Saintess said softly. The power bestowed by the goddess is called the power of glory by the Church of Glory. Can eliminate any darkness and evil in the world. If Lilia can still use this power, let alone the position of Saintess, Lilia will be the true son of the goddess. He is the divine messenger of the Glory Church and even the entire continent. I can't drive away the evil dragon for the time being. I feel that the warm power in my body has left me, but I have a feeling that this power will come back soon. Lilia shook her head. This is the coping method Caesar gave her. After all, special effects props are disposable and are gone after use. Furthermore, this special effect can only scare people who have never seen the world. People like Saintess and the Pope who have seen the world may be able to see through it easily. Might as well make an excuse and say it can't be used. In this way, even if Saintess and the Pope want to let Lilia can find excuses not to show it without risking being seen through. Unable to use the power of radiance. You seem certain that this power will come back. The Pope's eyes sharpened. Like sharp blades, they were swung freely on Lilia's body. He wanted to use this look to expose Lilia in front of him. This sharp gaze is very useful to ordinary people, but for Lilia, it has no effect. I have seen even the most ferocious red dragon, yet I am still afraid of your look. Compared with Caesar's scarlet eyes, the Pope pales in comparison. I don't know, it was a voice in my head that told me. Lilia explained. The voice in my head. I understand, Lilia, you can go back and rest. Saintess seemed to have thought of something, and gently touched Lilia's hair, signaling Lilia to go back and rest. Yes, Master Saintess, if you need anything, you can always come in my place. Lilia left the temple calmly. Looking at Lilia's leaving figure, the Pope said, Are you sure she has the glorious power given by God? Not sure. Saintess smiled softly. This smile seemed to be the most beautiful thing in the world, eclipsing everything else. Then why did you let her go? Why didn't you check her again? The Pope frowned. We can't be sure whether she has been exposed to the power of radiance, but we can't prove that she hasn't been exposed, right? Yes, Saintess cannot detect whether Lilia has the power of radiance. All the previous actions were just a cover-up. In order to cooperate with the Pope, they used pressure to test whether Lilia was telling the truth. If Lilia was really given radiance by the goddess, she is the messenger of God who guides our Glory Church. Quote, said the Pope, when the time comes, I will step down as Saintess and let Lilia take my place. Saintess spoke. She doesn't seem to care about her status as Saintess. This is a position that many people only dream of. Are you willing to do so? It always gets boring after sitting for a long time. Besides, I'm very tired and don't want to pretend anymore. The other side. Lilia successfully evaded the detection of the two men, and immediately excitedly told the news to Caesar, who was thousands of miles away. Caesar was not surprised at all when he received Lilia's reply. A miracle has not happened for hundreds of years. He did not believe that Saintess and the Pope really had divine magic in their hands. If they really have access to divine magic, the master of the Avicen Empire will definitely not be the royal family, but the church. But the master of the Avicen Empire is still the royal family, which means that the church does not master divine magic. Caesar didn't believe that a church that had mastered divine magic could really resist the temptation to replace the royal family. Never mind that they are believers in the goddess of nature and love peace. This is all for ordinary people. As long as you are human, you will have your own selfish desires. Taking a step back, even if Saintess and the Pope really have the means to see that Lilia's so-called divine power is fake, Caesar is also capable of getting Lilia back. He has a lot of unused items. The Red Dragon's army was joined by the Big Thief Dragon, and within 3 days, they had completed the journey of the previous week. This time in order to reach the area I want to reach faster. Caesar also deliberately held the map in his hand and stopped from time to time to give directions to the monsters. He wouldn't trust monsters anymore anyway. Especially Cled. This lizard man, if it weren't for his existence, Shizawa's clan would have arrived in the southern territory long ago. How could it lead to so many bad things? However, it was due to Cled's mistakes that Caesar conquered the White Dragon Carolina and the Tauran Alistar tribe. Karoo Forest. The area of this forest is 10 times the size of the previous Casa Forest. According to the map drawn by Lilia and transmigrate this forest, we can reach the place we want to reach. Caesar stopped and took out his map. After this period of getting along with Elenia, I don't know what she is thinking in her heart. Anyway, her body is already Caesar's. Sometimes even if Caesar doesn't say anything, Elenia will take the initiative. After all, the dragon is full of treasures. Not to mention the essence. Elenia can clearly feel that her body is getting stronger. Keep going. Let's go. Move towards the goal. Accompanied by Caesar's orders. After spending another 3 days, the Red Dragon clan finally transmigrated the Karoo Forest and arrived at the destination they had always wanted to reach, the Southern Territory. The terrain in the southern region is complex, full of sandstone, flatlands, and forests. Karoo Forest is one of them. Caesar unceremoniously led the monsters to occupy his favorite terrain, sandstone. Dry sandstone is the favorite of red dragons. On the contrary, White Dragon Carolina didn't like it very much, with obvious disgust on her face. It's a pity that when facing Zeiss, the master, she had no choice but to compromise and didn't even dare to say a word. There was no ice she liked, so Carolina made it herself. Anyway, the breath will be frozen, and when the time comes, you can spray it everywhere to decorate your nest. Settled in sandstone areas, the monsters immediately picked up their tools and began to build a nest suitable for them to live in. The giant thieves used their sharp claws to dig holes into the hard sandstone, and the goblins drilled into them and began to expand using the manuscript. Of course, not all monsters live in lairs. The Tauran are so tall that it is basically impossible to build crypts for them in one day. The place where the Tauran once lived was the underground labyrinth of the plain. In order to build this underground maze, it took several generations of Tauran from the Alistar tribe. Without an underground lair, Alistar led the Tauran to raise their axes, chop down the wood in the surrounding forest, and build a simple shelter. The tall body and strong muscles of the Tauran are powerful in everything they do. The wood, which is heavy to ordinary monsters, is like a larger toy in the hands of the Tauran, and can also be used as a stick. Nishizawa discovered 2 huge stones in the sandstone, which looked like a layered rock cave. Just don't waste time. Use your own power to forcibly expand this cave and transform it into your own cave. I will study hard in the future. It's good to be able to cope with it now. Looking at the busy monsters, Elenia suddenly felt that she was a bit redundant. She wanted to help, but found that she could not help much. Bah, bah, bah. What am I doing to help these monsters? Caesar is my enemy. Killing these monsters is enough. Quote. Elenia was frightened by her own thoughts. He quickly shook his head, trying to get rid of this thought. Hey, spit it out. Ouch. A sound attracted the attention of the monsters. I saw a giant thief dragon swallowing a prey it had just killed into its belly without even chewing it. The monster entered the belly of the big thief dragon, and the big thief dragon's belly expanded like a balloon. The lizard man who was robbed of food jumped up in anger, grabbed the mane of the big thief dragon, and punched and kicked the big thief dragon. But the big thief dragon raised his head and would rather die than vomit. When the other lizard men saw this, they quickly stepped forward and beat the big thief dragon in the belly together. Soon, the giant thief dragon couldn't resist and vomited out the undigested prey in its stomach. It was a huge deer. The elk's skin has corroded a bit of hair inside the giant thiefosaur's belly. Seeing the elk covered in yellow mucus, the lizard man did not dislike it at all. To prevent the big thief dragon from snatching it away again, the lizard man started chewing it on the spot. Seeing this scene, Elenia felt very disgusted. Monsters are monsters. Everything is so natural. Anyway, Elenia couldn't accept it, it was too disgusting. Not as good as Caesar's essence water. Eat slowly. Don't choke to death. Cled laughed and cursed, sitting on the stone to rest. I was exhausted during this time. Finally found the place where the clan actually settled. Let's develop well here from now on. I just don't know if I can survive until the day when my master becomes the Dragon King. It takes 300 years for a giant dragon to reach adulthood. The lifespan of an ordinary lizardman is only 60 years. Cled, the dragon-turned-lizardman, can only live a maximum of 120 years. It can't support a giant dragon to adulthood. Cled, if you hadn't read the map wrong, we would have arrived long ago. Obi sat next to Cled angrily and said, "Stop mentioning this matter. Just pretend that nothing happened and the master punished me." Cled obviously didn't want to mention it. Being embarrassed is a small matter, but being scolded by the master is a big deal. If you haven't done any meritorious service recently, don't expect to get the master's dragon transformation ceremony reward. What are you talking about? Alistar took the initiative to join the chat. He joined late. Although they are stronger than Cled and Obi now, he knows that as long as the future master does not hesitate to spend his blood, their strength will catch up with him sooner or later. This guy before. Obi smiled and told Alistar about Cled's misreading of the map. Alistar laughed out loud when he learned that Cled misread the map and was scolded by his master. No wonder the owner was so angry at that time. As the monster bosses build their relationships. Dragon's Nest. Caesar looked at his masterpiece with satisfaction. Next he will start learning magic. There are many magics in the dragon inheritance. In the past, I had been delayed because of too many things, but now I have the blessing of evil points and talents. His magic value is enough to cast 4-ring magic. Let's see what we have to learn. Karoo Forest Edge. A group of hyenas walking upright are gathering together to carve up today's delicious prey. He was wearing tattered cloth armor and looked very old. He held a variety of weapons in his hands. Looking around, he saw that none of the weapons were fine, and all of them had already rusted. The wooden shield used to block attacks was even worse. There is a long mane on the back of the head. They are a group of gnolls, monsters with a danger level of B. With high intelligence, cunning, coupled with the last group attack, the combined power is comparable to an A-level monster. The height is generally between 2 meters and 2 meters 2. The gnoll leader lay quietly on the rock, enjoying the pieces of meat cut by his men with knives. Although their strength is not particularly strong, fortunately they are a group and they live quite well in this area rich in food resources. The only thing that doesn't work is that they don't have slaves belonging to the jackals themselves. Jackals will enslave monsters that are lower level than themselves and let these low-level monsters work for them. Leader Watts. Now, a jackal ran over in a hurry. Kaza, why are you so impatient? I will give you some food. Jackal leader Waz glanced at Kazadao. Kaza is a scout of the jackal tribe. Although he does not participate in hunting, he can play the role of discovering enemies and dangers in advance. So even if he doesn't participate in hunting, Kaza can still get daily food. If there wasn't enough food to share, even some of the jackals participating in the hunt couldn't get it, he could still get it. No, Chief Watts, that's not what I'm talking about. Just when you were leading the hunters to hunt, a red shenlong flew over my head. Then I also heard a lot of footsteps. Looking at the direction of the red dragon, I guessed that this giant dragon should have settled here. Kaza quickly waved his hand and explained. Well, I know. What? The red dragon? After Waz reacted, he didn't pay attention and fell down from the rock. He grinned in pain, touched his waist, then stood up and hit Kaza on the shoulder. Are you sure you saw a red dragon? I must have read it correctly. Leader Waz, if you don't believe me, I will take you to see it now. The giant dragon should be at the layer of rock next door. Kaza pointed to the direction where the dragon disappeared and said. Monster danger levels are SSS, SS, S, A, B, C, D. Are you sure you saw it? Sure and certain. Certain and certain. Is it absolutely true? Chief Watts, you have asked me many times. If you really don't believe me, I will take you there to have a look. Facing Waz, who kept asking, Kaza was speechless. Even if you are the leader, I can't stand you. Is it necessary to not believe in yourself so much? No need for the moment. Great Yinogu, is this your blessing? Meeting the giant dragon finally made us, the Lengya tribe, meet. Waz clenched his hands into fists in excitement and looked up to the sky laughing. The surrounding jackals looked at each other in confusion. What was the leader of his family doing? What was he laughing at all of a sudden? Sensing the jackal's gaze, Waz withdrew his smile and told his companions about the incident. In an instant, the Lengya tribe was in an uproar. Dragon. It's a dragon. It is also the most powerful red dragon among the 5-colored dragons. Their luck has come. From beginning to end, jackals have always regarded powerful creatures as the targets they follow. If you were to choose a master among the many monsters that jackals like to follow the most, then it must be the red dragon. The red dragon is the most powerful evil creature in the world, a born evil leader who can carry out the chaotic evil of their gnolls. Chief Watts, there is one more thing that I haven't told you yet. Kaza tapped Waz's excited shoulder. What's the matter? Waz asked curiously. According to my observation, this red dragon seems to be just a young dragon. Kaza said awkwardly. The red dragon is indeed worthy of the jackals to follow without hesitation. The problem is that a red dragon has not even reached adolescence. Is it still worth following? A young red dragon, even a group of jackals like them, can still take down a young red dragon if they work hard. No way. The young dragon is too weak. In addition to having a relatively strong body, even magic cannot be fully mastered. Even after breathing out once or twice, I lost my energy. Only in adolescence can we usher in true transformation. Such a giant dragon may fall at any time. Which servant would be willing to follow a master who can easily die at any time? ... Why didn't you ask this question earlier? Waz's eyes widened. You don't give me a chance either. Kaza felt aggrieved. The giant dragon is coming, but what comes as a young red dragon? Waz was in a dilemma. Should he defect to this red dragon that could die at any time, or should he pretend that nothing happened? But next time you want to wait for the dragon to come, it will be almost impossible. The leader who died in front was not even a giant dragon. Chief Watts, otherwise we won't go. Kaza suggested. Why? Waz didn't expect Kaza to make this decision. We jackals can only live for 35 years. By the time we die, this red dragon will not even be a teenager yet. That's what Kaza meant. A red dragon that doesn't even have a youth can't give them any benefits. Now in the past, I could only work for others for nothing. You may not be able to see your salary yet. Waz touched his chin and felt that what Kaza said made sense. Leader Waz, you can't think like this. What if this red dragon happens to be short of servants? When he sees our jackal tribe, he is willing to join us. Maybe when I am happy, I will reward you with something, such as the power of the dragon. A jackal heard the conversation between Watts and Kaza. He stepped forward and gave his suggestion. After hearing this, Waz felt that what the jackal said made sense. Eventually the Gnoll tribe broke into a quarrel. Nearly 200 jackals were quarreling fiercely, and everyone held their own opinions. If you can't persuade others, others can't persuade you. Finally, shut up. I have decided to defect to the red dragon. Waz, the jackal leader who had one vote to decide, stood on a high stone and shouted. Chief Watts, the jackals of Kaza's group were anxious. Stop it, Kaza, do you still want to live an ordinary life like this? Our fangs shouldn't be able to be used only here. Only by following the dragon can the fangs of our gnolls be seen by the whole world. Waz spoke out about his ambitions. Rather than living a dull life here, it is better to work hard for the future. Even if they can't enjoy that day, the descendants of their Lengya tribe can still see it coming. Layer Rock. While talking and laughing, Alistar looked keenly towards the direction of the forest. What's wrong, Alistar? Kled asked. In the friendly exchange just now, the three leaders became friends. Danger is approaching. Alistar stood up and twisted his neck. Upon hearing the danger, Kled and Obi immediately stood up and initiated a defensive signal. The monsters who received the signal all moved closer to their leader, regardless of the work at hand, and picked up weapons every day. Alistar's piercing bull's eyes seemed to be able to see through the leafy tree crown. He picked up a stone next to him and threw it downwards. Bang! As soon as the stone fell into the forest, it was knocked out. Immediately afterwards, a group of gnolls appeared before their eyes. It's the gnoll. Kled has seen gnolls. There used to be them in the Casa forest, but because there were not many of them, the lizardmen gathered and drove them away. What are these gnolls doing here? Obi said with an evil look in his eyes. Alistar did not act rashly and waited for the leader of the gnolls on the opposite side. The monsters on both sides looked at each other warily, but compared to the Red Dragon clan, the jackals were more nervous. They seem to be unable to match the opponent's quantity and strength. Asshole, is this the young red dragon you call? Woz cursed. How could a young red dragon have such a large family? Normally, a young red dragon should have no dependents. DACD. So Kaza must have seen it wrong. Fortunately, I decided to come in the end, otherwise I would have missed such a powerful red dragon lord. I'm really a young red dragon, leader Woz, but I really didn't know that this young red dragon would have so many monster relatives. Kaza wanted to explain. Woz had lost his patience, pushed him aside, and stood in front of the jackals. We have no ill intentions. Jackal language. Hateful. I forgot that I don't know the common language. Jackals only know one language, and that is Jackal, which is their own language. Generally speaking, when gnolls want to trade with other monsters, they will bring their own goblin slaves to act as translators. It's a pity that their Lenya tribe doesn't have one. It seems that there is something wrong with language communication. What is he saying? Kled didn't understand. He only knows Draconic and Common. I know what he meant was that he meant no harm. Obi, who was moving, could understand. Goblins understand many languages. If it weren't for the cheating device of the dragon's inheritance, the goblins would know more languages than the dragon. No harm. Obi, what are they doing here? Kled said. Obi conveyed Kled's words to Woz. Hearing the familiar language above his head, Woz's eyes lit up. Great. There are monsters that can understand jackal language, which makes communication easier. We are here to take refuge with the great dragon. Woz shouted. To join the great dragon. Obi conveyed the message to the other chiefs. This caused Kled and Alistar to look at each other. When we came here, were we discovered by this group of jackals? Alistar didn't expect these jackals to be so sharp-eyed. The previous owner had always been invisible. It wasn't until he got close to the layer of rocks that his figure was revealed. Unexpectedly, it was at this moment that the jackal saw him. The jackals are loyal followers of the dragon, just like us. Let them come up. Anyway, their numbers are here and they can't do anything to us. As the dragon's henchman, the lizardman Kled can understand the gnoll's heart. Lizard folk are also fanatical followers of dragons. So Kled felt that Woz and the others meant no harm. Furthermore, even if you have malicious intentions, as long as you catch up, won't you enter their encirclement? Alistar thought for a while and realized that this was indeed the case. He signaled to his tribe to let the jackals climb up. Just climbed up. Woz, the leader of the jackals, said enthusiastically, I wonder where the master of the red dragon is. We want to kneel down and worship the majestic figure of the master. Have to. Before Caesar spoke, they all called themselves his slaves. He didn't care at all whether Zeiss would accept them or not, he just regarded himself as a member of the Red Dragon clan. Dirty jackals, don't be too proud, the master has not yet agreed to your surrender. Obi warned, I have seen shameless people, but I have never seen such shameless people. Phew, what's going on outside? There are so many jackals. At this time, Carolina flew out of her little nest. He looked at the gnoll in surprise. White dragon. When he saw the pure white dragon, Z was stunned for a moment, and then looked at Kaza beside him, his eyes full of anger. It seems to be saying, you guy. Didn't you say it was a red dragon? How could it be a white dragon? As we all know, the white dragon's strength is at the lowest level among the 5-color dragons. Even if he is a white dragon, he is still a young white dragon. The difference is huge. How did this young white dragon conquer so many monsters? However, despite coming here, we are still surrounded by others. Woz smiled hard and said, Dear Master White Dragon, we are here. Carolina, what are you doing here? There are so many gnolls. Alistar, give me an explanation. Now, the real master of the Red Dragon clan slowly walked out of the dragon's nest. His appearance became the focus of the audience. Let Woz the gnoll turn his worries into joy. The noisy sound attracted the attention of the red dragon in the lair. The crimson figure was like a crimson sun rising from the edge of the cliff. The shining light reflected on each monster's face, making the hair floating on their bodies burn like flames. The leader of the jackals, Woz, had quick eyesight and quick hands. Before anyone could react, he stepped forward and knelt down in front of Caesar. The stirred-up sand flew up, and Woz used the cloth armor on his knees to slide out a trace of his knees. With ardent admiration flowing in his eyes, he looked up at the red dragon and said, "Praise you, my beloved master. The scales on your body are as dazzling as jewels. The red gems are embedded in your body, so I can't move away from you. My eyes, not even those of the gods in the heavens, are as dazzling as yours." Listening to his ears and looking at the jackal in front of him, Caesar felt that it was very useful. As a dragon, he can understand the jackal language spoken by Woz. Red dragons love hearing this. But then again, please explain to me carefully what is going on with this jackal. Dragon's lair. Cled told Caesar everything about Woz and the others coming to seek refuge. Because this group of jackals came to seek refuge with their red dragon master, they had no right to deal with this group of jackals. So we can only let this group of jackals come up temporarily. Lowly jackals, I don't seem to agree with your following. After listening to Cled's explanation, Caesar knew what this jackal was thinking. I haven't even agreed yet. You consider yourself my slave. One mouthful after another, I was wondering when I had subdued the jackals. This is your charm, my master. Even if you don't speak, our group of jackals should follow you. Woz said with feverish eyes. He knows victory or defeat lies in this moment. Whether you can be accepted as a kinsman by the red dragon depends on your current performance. If the performance goes well, their Lenya tribe can call themselves the dependents of the red dragon. This is the highest honor of an all. Really. It is absolutely true, my lord. Woz was afraid that Caesar wouldn't see his sincerity, so he crawled on the ground, eager to kneel down and lick Caesar's toes. The red dragon's vertical pupils were burning with fire, and Caesar finally decided, "Very good, what's your name, jackal?" "My name is Woz, my beloved master," Woz said excitedly. He knew that as long as the dragon asked these words, he would most likely become the dragon's dependent. "Woz, that's a pretty good name, Woz. From now on, you will be a member of my red dragon clan. I hope you won't disappoint me, lowly jackal." Caesar agreed to Woz's participation. Woz's active surrender, doesn't this represent his own charm? This is the charm that an evil dragon monarch should have. Without too much conquest, monsters will come to seek refuge with you. Your name as an evil dragon attracts evil monsters to follow you, and you gain 500 evil points. Please rest assured, my master, the heroic jackal will never let you down. With all due respect, master, your majestic figure is bigger than the world. My eyes cannot contain all of you. Okay, Woz, your eloquence is good, but I hope your hands and feet are not weak either. Please rest assured on this, my master. Woz's words became more and more outrageous. Those who didn't know it thought that Caesar was an extremely powerful ancient dragon. Little did they know that Zeiss was just a young red dragon. Cled, no, Obi, set aside an area of the stratum for the gnolls and take them to see it. Caesar said, although the red dragon clan has not conquered Layer Rock yet, they don't even know which monster rules Layer Rock. But Nishizawa seems to have regarded himself as the master of Bedrock. Just aborigines, ridiculous, not your own opponent. Originally he had some concerns, but now he has become arrogant. If I can't beat you at night, then I will choose my strongest moment to deal a devastating blow to you. Yes, master. Obi looked at the snickering jackal Watts next to him. I knew this Woz would have a place in the future. Because this guy's eloquence is so good, didn't you see that your master was so proud of himself? Even a smile appeared on his face. Even I can clearly see the hypocrisy of that jackal, and there's no reason why you can't. Elenia hated Woz's flattering look just now. Especially those exaggerated words made her very comfortable. This is not hypocrisy, Elenia, this is praise, his praise for me, and I feel good about it. Caesar enjoyed this feeling. None of the previous monsters could do it, only this jackal could. This was why he kept Woz. Sometimes it's nice to have a well-spoken parrot around. HMPH, hypocrisy. Elenia snorted coldly. Oh. After a while, are you still hypocritical? No. No more hypocrisy. No more hypocrisy. Outside, Woz led the jackals in high spirits, followed Obi, put the axe on his shoulder and said, Chief Obi, where is the habitat of our jackals? To be honest, we have just moved here. With such a large area of rock formations, wherever you like, just live there, W. Obi-Wan casually pointed at the large piece of yellow rock in front of him and said, "Now that the monsters of the Red Dragon clan are resting and building lairs, there is no time to manage the gnolls." "Yeah, I understand, then we can choose by ourselves." Waz touched his chin and said, "With the addition of gnolls, the atmosphere in the campground became much livelier. Jackals are not as serious as lizards and tauren, and their personalities are more free and easy." He soon became involved with the original monsters of the Red Dragon clan. It took a day. Finally, the Red Dragon clan's initial enemy was created. The excess firewood was chopped into sharp wooden thorns by the tauren and placed on the edge of the rock layer to defend against foreign enemies. The goblins were quite skillful and even made crossbow arrows for some monsters. This provides the Red Dragon clan with ranged attacks. There is no need to rush forward as soon as the battle begins. While Elenia was in a coma, Caesar used the power of the monkey talisman and the rat talisman to create the Gnoll priest and the tauren priest. White Dragon Carolina fell into a deep sleep the next day. Her body will begin to transform into a young dragon. Carolina lay in the nest she dug, which was filled with patches of extremely cold ice. These are all ice cubes generated by Carolina's own freezing breath. The temperature of the entire nest reached sub-zero. Only in this environment can the white dragon enter a deep sleep, read the memories inherited by the dragon, and begin to transform. Looking at the defensive magic at the entrance of the lair, it seemed as if it could be pierced through white paper. Caesar sighed and thoughtfully helped Carolina strengthen her body. It took Caesar just one day to obtain the first and second rings of fire magic in the dragon inheritance. Other magics are also slowly being learned. At this moment, 2 circles of shining red light were carved on the back of his head. He is preparing to create the first 3-ring magic. As long as he learns one 3-ring magic, he can slowly master other 3-ring magic. What should I learn for my first 3-ring magic? First of all, he has many attack methods, and there is no shortage of magic damage. Learning auxiliary magic seems to be more helpful to me. Thinking of this, Caesar fell in love with a 3-ring magic, fire protection. Let yourself form a huge fire magic shield. This will not have much effect on Caesar. He already has a dog charm and a horse charm. But this magic has a special feature, that is, it can be used on other people. This means that when leading monsters to fight, Caesar can provide them with a flame shield to enhance their defense. Point 0. Don't worry about a lot of monsters being killed or injured after a battle. Study. It's just an introduction to magic anyway. There is still a lot of magic to master in the future. Driven by Shizawa's soul power, mysterious runes were carved in the shining halo. Just when Nishizawa was learning advanced magic. Outside, bang, a bird with a wingspan of nearly 4 meters fell from the sky. Its wings were pierced by a crossbow arrow, causing him to lose the ability to fly. Miscellaneous bird, I see you have been flying overhead for a long time. Do you know whose territory this is? Waz held a crossbow and led other monster leaders to surround this place. This giant bird was surrounded. This giant bird has bright purple-red wings, its body is the body of a giant eagle, but its head is the head of a buck. The antlers on the top of the head still had dried blood. Deerhawk beast, a flying monster whose strength has reached B level. Bah! The deer-eagle beast lay on the ground, looking at the monster leaders surrounding it, and kept flapping its wings nervously. The sand that formed choked Waz and they coughed. Alistar couldn't stand it anymore, so he stepped on the deerhawk's claws, and then broke his wings violently. Blood flowed from the broken wings, and a miserable cry rose. The sharp sound made the monsters feel a little uncomfortable, but it was much better than the dust that had just been raised. You can speak now, or your head will be crushed by me. Alistar raised his hoof and threatened. Unfortunately, the deer-headed spirit did not speak, but kept moaning. I remember that deer-headed spirits can't speak, but they can understand common tongue. I can't. Obi, come on. Waz explained. The deer-headed elf understands the meaning of common tongue and elvish tongue, but cannot speak. But he can't speak, what can I ask? Obi pointed at himself and said in surprise. The other party can't even speak, so what can he ask? This is a problem. It would be better if you kill him and eat him. It's better to inform the master. What if something happens? For example, I came to seek refuge with my master. You will not surrender to your master by flying around in the sky to declare your sovereignty. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.